Painting by Numbers, Episode 2. It is November 22nd, 2025, and I have a treat today. I have two special guests and one returning guest. My name is Drake Swagahodhonis, and I'm here joined by...
Georgephilis, aka Whiffy Penguin.
Jack Kitchen, what's up, guys? Captain Cook.
I'm Jasper, JustJasper on MTGO, Discord, whatever.
Excellent. So today's cast is going to be an entire comprehensive history of the Legacy Painter deck. Just briefly starting out here, why are we doing this pod? About a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, MTG The Source went down for a few weeks, and in that moment, I realized that if that forum goes away, you're losing a lot of the history of pretty much the majority of old Legacy archetypes, and you can't really Wayback Machine a forum properly. And so once it's gone for good, and the preservation of history is important for something as cool as Painter. We all love Painter. Every single person here in this chat is a dedicated Painter stan. We love the deck. We've been playing it for a long time, and there's lots of good lessons that can be learned from studying the history of a deck. And the other thing, too, is it gives people the opportunity who were contributing throughout the years to, it gives them the opportunity to be recognized for their contributions. And Painter is also a deck that has such a long history that we're going to go through today, but what other deck has had a run like this? Like, I'm trying to think of anything that's been as significant as Painter for a deck that's floated around the 0.5 to up to 8% at one point of the metagame, and it's still competitively viable in 2025. So it's really an impressive run, and it's something that I want to document, and I've selected some individuals here who could help me with the history of the deck. Jasper is laughing, and I'm looking forward to this pod. Hopefully everyone is too.
Absolutely.
So getting into it, our story starts the origin of the single greatest combo in Magic the Gathering history, Painter Servant and Grindstone. Painter Servant came out in 2008 with the set release Shadowmoor, and obviously it was a 1-2 punch with the card Grindstone. Before that, the mill strategy was pretty much just reserved for a kitchen table casual Magic deck. Not really something that's competitively viable, especially not in a format as powerful as Legacy and Vintage. For this podcast, we're going to specifically talk about just Legacy. But Shadowmoor was also a very significant set for Legacy, and it had a bunch of eternal playable cards that still see play to this day. So, George, how does the combo work, Painter Servant Grindstone? You mentioned in the cast number 1, your kids know how Painter Servant Grindstone works, so you take it away.
My kids do know. So you have Painter Servant. When that comes into play, you get to choose a color, and then every card in every zone of the game becomes that color. Your hand, your deck, your graveyard. Grindstone has the ability of pay 3 tap, target player, really important, mills 2 cards. If they share a color, repeat this process. So with Painter Servant out, every card in your opponent's deck is going to be blue or red or green, multicolor if they are a different color. And you'll repeat the process over and over again. There's not a chance to respond to repeating the process. So if you activate it without a response, they will put their deck into their graveyard.
Excellent rundown. Very thorough. So, 23 days after Shadowmoor comes out, there's a 51-player event in Japan, and Okazawa Tetsuya runs a rudimentary version of the Painter Servant Grindstone deck, and it's a true Haterator style deck. He's main decking 4 Pyroblast, 4 Red Elemental Blast, some number of active Volcano and Burnout, which are just true. I hate blue. Blue is going down. End of discussion. And there was also a blue Painter deck piloted by Fuji Hidekazu that also finished in the top 8. And we're going to look at these decks because these decks are cool. Again, 23 days after Shadowmoor comes out. Let's take a look at Tetsuya's deck here. So, looking at his deck, it's a traditional, let's call it a stompy deck by traditional naming nomenclature. You have the 8 Soul Lands, 10 Snow-Covered Mountain. Like, that's the mana base from all of the mono-red stompy decks up until, they started playing Urza Saga earlier within the last couple years, right? So, you have 8 Soul Lands, you have Chrome Mox, you have ways to do all of the things that you want to do, mainly power out a Magus of the Moon, an Imperial Recruiter. Simian Spirit Guide also ramps the mana, And Jaya Ballard Task Mage is the ultimate blue haterator card. You guys want to talk about this list at all?
The thing that I love
What's up?
about this list is that it's so close in so many respects to where we ended up, like, for so many years, right? Like, you could almost have registered this list like 5-6 years later, and I mean, okay, you wouldn't be playing Active Volcano and Burnout, and maybe you'd shave a couple copies of Jaya Ballard, but like the core of the deck is already here, right after it comes out, and I just love seeing it. And it's such a cool list, so clean.
Another cool part of all these old lists is notice Blood Moon Blood Moon was the worst card compared to Magus for the longest time. So, you have to fight against goblins and zoo. Having the actual just creature, if it's not good, was like a real choice. Blood Moon kind of then became the choice later, which is another interesting little like point for Painter itself. And then Magus lost so much favor and then came back to the point even now with Force of Vigor. Kind of interesting that for so long, it was only Blood Moon. And now Magus is even, the choice now.
Yep, and you can see from the sideboard too, there's still 4 Blood Moon in the sideboard. They have cards like Gaia's Blessing, Shattering Spree for affinity combo, the stuff that people were doing back then for Tormod's Crypt. Again, we'll talk about Legacy in 2008 because it's important. It's coming up in the next couple slides.
Do we think Blessing is for the mirror?
Yeah. Do you think he broke the format with his buddy? He's like, yo, just in case we meet in the finals.
It's all those Millstone players who aren't playing Painter Servant and Grindstone.
Or do you think that they sideboard that in a grindy matchup to mill themselves to put their whole deck back in?
I actually don't know. It's pretty interesting. Maybe they were buddies and nobody ever knows.
Well, I'm guessing there's no green mana, so it's probably
mill,
mirror deck.
I think it has to be mirror tech. It has to be like,
Has to
okay,
be
this
mirror
is the
tech.
hot new combo. Everybody's going to be on it. When you start playing a deck and you're like, damn, everybody's going to be playing this. I have to be able to beat this. And you like vastly overestimate the meta share of your own deck. I have no idea how many people played Painter in this tournament, but I feel like that's
converted to the top 8. So
right, exactly.
So let's take a look at the blue version here. And this blue version is wild. This is Legacy 2008, if I've ever seen it. Notably, no Gaia's Blessing in the sideboard. Not planned for the mirror. Not planning. But this is wild. They got Trinket Mage for the Grindstone. They got Trinket Mage for top EE. It has 1 Dreadnought and 2 Stifles. That's fun. Painter Servant obviously combos with Una, Queen of Fae. And Morphling, damage on the stack, baby. This was a real deal back in the day. But 4 Force of Will, 4 Counterspell. This was just cool. One Plains, and I'm trying to. I guess the Plains is strictly for. This is fun little Legacy deck building right here. 1 Plains, 1 Swamp, and then they played 2 Polluted Delta, 2 Flooded Strand to find 1 of each, so that you can engineered explosives. Oh, so weird. Anyway. Cool list.
17 Islands is also just really something as well.
Yeah. Anyone have any other comments on this one?
I didn't think that Morphling was playable after 2000.
Oh, yeah, man. So, anyway, Vidalcan Shackles in your... it didn't play a Tundra. Maybe they didn't have one. I don't know. Anyway, this deck is cool. Again, it's the 2 first results with Painter. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this over to George shortly, but I had to use the Wayback Machine and find an article by DJ Ketchum commenting on Imperial Recruiter. So George can explain how Classic worked on Magic Online. But basically what happened was the release of Shadowmoor had coincided with the release of Tempest Online. And so it's one of those, it's a perfect storm situation where you got your Painter Servant released at the same time as Grindstone on Magic Online. So, yeah, okay. Take it away, George, if you can explain how Classic worked online for the people who don't know.
Yeah, so Magic Online, I think it released in 2000, and it came with Invasion. That was the first set released on Magic Online. And then in 2005, they released Mirage as the first set in the back catalog before Invasion to come out, with the idea that they were going to try to sync up paper and digital play so that it was the same game, because effectively you could not play type 1, type 1.5. I think that the formats hadn't been labeled as vintage and legacy at this point. So they came out with Mirage in 2005, and the sets were coming out backwards compatible, as well as the regular standard release sets. And then in 2008, Tempest came out alongside Shadowmoor, and so both parts of the combo were legal for the first time in paper and digital. Classic at this point was Invasion Forward and Mirage Forward, with a couple of sets called Masters Edition that released stuff from pre-Mirage, Alpha, Legends, such and such. We, I think at this point, did not have real dual lands, but we had a lot of other stuff. And I remember my clanmate and I, because Magic Online used to have clans instead of teams, we brewed up a mono black Necropotence Demonic Consultation deck that you were allowed to play with 4 copies of each. It was an incredibly disgusting deck that you would often win on turn 1 with Soul Spikes. We brewed up this deck. It was a known commodity. There was a bunch of hate bear decks in the format to try to beat it. Zoo was really popular because it could pressure your life total and had like Ethersworn Canonist and stuff. And we basically sideboarded into Evergreen with Tarmogoyf's Tombstalkers. We just made the deck worse so that we could go over the top of all these slow mid-rangey decks that were built to beat the Necro deck. And my teammate loses in the semifinals, and I lose in the finals to the same player who is playing Painter Servant Grindstone combo that I had never seen before. And it sucked for me then, but it was kind of cool. I wrote a couple articles about it. I don't think I ever recorded it back in the day, but I obviously played it in either Legacy or Classic. There's a slide later where one of my lists gets like a 3-1 in a daily event, which is the equivalent to a league or a challenge. I guess it's closer to a challenge because they were scheduled. And yeah, that's how Painter Servant both came to paper and digital and won like the first large event that you could play it with in Classic.
Now, is this Imperial Painter?
No, this was if I remember correctly, it was a blue-red painter with, I think it's very close to what I played, the deck list that I played with like Intuitions and 1 or 2 Goblin Welders. It was closer to Painted Stone, which we'll get to later.
Yep, gotcha. So in this Get Out Your Painter Servant article from DJ, he has a rudimentary deck list that kind of looks similar, slightly different, a little less burnout and active volcano-y, and a little more red beat down. In lieu of those cards, you're playing Sword of Light and Shadow. So let's take a look at it's the same list here. Again, it's a mono red stompy deck by traditional naming nomenclature. You have Chromox, Magus of the Moon, Simian Spirit Guide, Soul Lands, and what's cool is at the time there was a lot of aggro. So goblins, zoo, whatever else was going for the beatdown. You needed to be able to play a sword that gained you life, and when you named blue with Painter Servant, didn't fall off your creature. So you couldn't play Sword of Fire and Ice because you can't equip it to anything because all creatures are blue. So kind of a neat little interaction there. But going forward, let's look at the context of the Legacy format in 2008. So I started playing Legacy in 2009. This is a little bit before my time, but not much. In almost all of these decks were holdover. Like, they were all still playable in 2009. Legacy, as George mentioned, was relatively new. In 2008, I think the first Legacy Grand Prix was 2005. So it was a relatively new format, and the power level of Magic cards then versus now, it's a completely different game. If you play Legacy in 2025, you know what I'm talking about if you played Legacy in 2010. Games were won off of more incremental advantage. The snowball mechanics of fire design in 2019 they didn't really exist. Legacy heuristics were pretty funny. Like, I remember there's like an old AJ Soccer video where he's talking about the best brainstorm is the one you never cast. And you guys have probably been hearing this for a decade up until they printed Orcish Bowmaster or something, right? Like, oh, you got to hold on to your brainstorms. Don't ever cast them. Lose with them in your hand, right? Like, it's one of those just like weird old understandings. And like some lists were cool, but a lot of them, like you look at that mono blue deck and you go, okay, that's kind of all over the place. The mono blue painter deck from 2008. And like things like Ponder were legal with Lorwyn. but people weren't playing Ponder. Ponder just wasn't a thing that people were really interested in. The Xerox style of deck building hadn't really been discovered yet. Like, not discovered, but, it's Canadian Threshold played Ponder, but many other decks didn't play Ponder. Tribal synergies, very big. Goblins, Merfolk, Elves, whatever. Slivers was very good, counter Slivers. And the other thing, too, with 2008 Legacy is there was no hybridization of archetypes. So, for example, the blue-black Reanimator deck that existed up and that's been, reigning on the format for the last 2 years is also a blue-black tempo deck. Decks tended to stay in their lane. A dedicated Reanimator deck was a dedicated Reanimator deck. You weren't hybridizing where, like, oh, we also play Bowmaster and Murktide Regent so that when that plan falls through, I can kill you with an 8/8 Murktide. That wasn't really a thing that was happening back then. And so as a result, decks were easier to hate out. And the format was, in general, very slow moving because instead of the 7 sets now that you get per year, you got 3 sets per year. You got a block per year, effectively. And of those cards, maybe 5 or 10 per block will make it into Legacy and see long-term play because you're dealing with the whole card pool, right? Like, of the cards here that are shown, like, not a lot of new stuff, a lot of old stuff. The power level in general, very, very tame compared to today.
I mean, there's also no design whatsoever at this point for eternal formats of any kind, right? Like now
That
there
is
are cards
true, yeah.
designed for modern, for Commander, and at this point everything is just designed for standard. So, what logically the power level is going to be lower there as well.
100%. Just take a look here. I screenshotted a bunch of things from TC decks. You have Threshold, you have Landstill, Red-Green Beats, Zoo, Goblins, Elves, Agrolome, different colors of Threshold. You have the Rock, you got Fish. Eternal Garden is lands. You got Dredge. It's kind of wide open. There's Ad Nauseam Storm. Format was truly wide open, and everything was pretty good, pretty viable. I remember from that time I played a lot of the black-green, like Evergreen deck, and it was fine. So jumping into it now, MTG The Source and tournament development of this deck. I want to take a second to thank Colin Chilbert of MTG The Source for making The Source and continuing to host it over the years. Without The Source, this podcast would have been impossible. All of the information that I gathered through all the research, probably 50% of it, 50% or more of it was taken from The Source. And it's really fun to just go back and read all of the things and read what people thought and, what rings true, et cetera, et cetera. So the initial thread was started by Michael Keller. His MTG The Source name is Hollywood MK. He made the first thread in June of 2008. He took the Japanese pilot, the deck, the mono red one, and then he streamlined it. So he did, Sword of Light and Shadow, Blood Moons, Magus of the Moons, and then he ended up going on deployment and was only able to play the deck for 6 to 7 months before leaving. But during that time, he won a bunch of tournaments, continued to test it, continued to develop the deck with a handful of people on The Source, and this is where things really start to the ball really starts to get rolling here. So the interesting thing about the interesting thing about Portal as a set is it is a very elementary set designed for the Asian market to get them interested in Magic. There are no instants; it's all sorceries, and it's a small print run in English. And so nowadays, Japanese Imperial Recruiters are about $40, but English ones are still about $100 or more. So finding in terms of card availability, Imperial Recruiter at the time was the most expensive card in Legacy. One of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, at about $150 in 2008. The other deck that would play 4 copies of Imperial Recruiter was Alurin, where you get to combo with that and Cavern Harpy and kill your opponent with Strix. Sorry, I said Cavern. Yeah, is it Cavern Harpy? Yeah, okay. And the other expensive Portal All-Star is Sea Drake, and that card was also probably about $150. This card is the OG Pirate Stompy card. Sea Drake, when it enters the battlefield, you can return 2 lands to play. you have to return 2 lands. If you play it off of a Chrome box and like a City of Traders or Ancient Tomb and you don't have 2 lands, you don't have to return 2 lands. So a turn 1 Sea Drake, all it has to do is attack 5 times. Your opponent is dead.
Unbelievable. Strong stuff.
Strong stuff. In 2008, too. Very strong stuff, right? So in terms of deck list technology, Keller was working on stuff. He quickly identified that you needed more power against the big creature decks. So Fledgling Dragon is a card that you can get with Imperial Recruiter. And once it gets Threshold, it gets Fire Breathing and becomes a 5/5 flyer. So kind of a cool niche problem to solve.
Bigger than Sea Drake as well. So
notably bigger than Sea Drake, yeah. Jaya Ballard is an all-star and was an all-star for about 6 or 7 years in the archetype. Like people in 2015, when I was looking back on deck lists, were still playing Jaya Ballard. Like it is
love
it
that
is
card.
funny. Yeah. Vexing Shusher, also another fantastic card from Shadowmoor. Stops things from being countered. Fairy Macabre is another tutorable target with Imperial Recruiter. All of these cards notably tutored by Imperial Recruiter. Again, further solidifying there needs to be 4 Imperial Recruiter in the deck. So going through, he starts putting up more results, and the natural thing that people do is they complain about the price of Imperial Recruiter. There are 3 messages in a row of people just complaining about the card is expensive. Forum moderator Peter Rotten just, okay, we get it. The card is expensive. Okay, we get it. The card is expensive. It's just like people complaining about, oh, no card should be $150. I'd love to read what the original messages are. What's funny, too, is Michael Keller was testing the deck at the time with D, like Colin Chilbert, the guy from the source. And so at this point, it's been a few months, and we're looking at the wild next iteration of Painter. So it goes from a red Stompy deck, and there are still people holding out and playing the red Stompy version, to a absolute monstrosity 3-color pile with Tarmogoyf. So in 2009, the thing that you could do is you could put Tarmogoyf in your deck, because why not? You could put Counterbalance in your deck with Sensei's Divining Top, because why not? Or you can do everything in your deck, because why not? So looking at this deck here, this Filiberto Piernoli, I probably butchered that, top 8 Bizarro Moxen 3. Bizarro Moxen is a notoriously large European, it's almost like a sub Grand Prix. At one point, it was the largest non-Grand Prix series tournament. I think that 4 Seasons has kind of taken the reins in current, like 2025, 2020 onwards. But Bizarro Moxen, are they even hosting them anymore, Jasper?
I'm actually not sure. It's a very good question.
Have you played them?
Check. I've never played in a Bazaar of Moxen, actually. No. I wasn't traveling much for events for a while. Now I travel more. Now that like 4 Seasons I've been to many more, and there was a card market series briefly that I went to. But lots of my friends on the Legacy scene here did play Bazaar of Moxens.
Yeah, and I know like Julian has a bunch of Bizarro Moxen accolades, and people. I think Callum has a few as well. They've done quite well at those tournaments. But yeah, they were huge, and they had proper coverage. It's kind of like the European equivalent of like an SCG large event. But this is a 474 player Legacy Champs. This guy made top 8 with this list. And this deck is something special.
It's a beautiful monstrosity. I mean, like just the 3 Chrome Mox. I have to imagine that like the Chrome Mox with a Painter in play, that's fixing, right? Because then it taps for red as well, or blue as well, rather. If you exile a red card, it can tap for blue with a Painter in play.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tech.
And the 3 Imperial Recruiters, it finds Lawan. When I screenshotted this, focusing on Lawan is cool because, return all blue creatures that your opponents have back to their hand. All creatures are blue when Painter's in play naming blue. So that card is a house. That card used to be the tech against Merfolk back in the day. But just a cool build. Again, they have all of the weird tutor targets. They have a Canonist. They have a Macabre on the board. They have a Yixoid Jailer. All of the stuff that you would expect out of an Imperial Recruiter deck. But like, look at this mana base. Wow, that's a wild mana base. And only 4 fetch lands. to tie together. Oh no, there's 7. There's Flooded Strand as well. Oh god, it's just so wild. But like the Flooded Strand in the Badlands deck, oh, it's wild.
The greed of playing a Great Furnace in this list is just
yeah, I know, right?
chef's kiss. Unbelievable. Like
So-
for what? It's not like you have Mox
Anyone
Opal.
could-
I don't like.
There
it's
is-
There's no welder
There is
either.
no welder. No. So no, it is an artifact to discard for a thirst for knowledge. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Perfect list, no notes. Chef's kiss. So at that time, the only thing that's missing from this deck, they added Tarmogoyf, but and they have 1 Senses Divining Top and 4 Trinket Mage. The thing that's missing though, obviously, is Counterbalance. And like I said, we're in the time frame where it's 2009 now, 2010. People are playing 4-color countertop decks with like Fire Spout and Vendilion Clique for the 3 drops. There's Base Eruption. There's Supreme Blue. There's Countertop Thopters. I was playing a Countertop Thopter Jace deck with like Enlightened Tutor and like Oblivion Ring and Moat. And back when Moats were like $75. My life was cool back then.
I know the guy who bought out moats and caused them to spike to $500.
Oh no.
He was a
One of
local
my
player
favorite,
in the area.
one of my favorite tournament reports of all time that wasn't written by Jack Kitchen is 5/3 Armor Juggernaut.
That is
which-
the ultimate tournament report of all time. Free Ned Leeds, man. Free Ned Leeds. I'm sure Jack is just sitting there, eyes closed, laughing right now. Because at the end of
Smile on my
every-
face.
At
Yeah.
the end of every single Jack Kitchen tournament report, which, by the way, if you haven't read on MTG The Source, the standalone reason why The Source needs to stay up is for the 7 or so tournament reports that Jack has written. And at the end of all of them is Free Ned Leeds. And yeah, that is the most fantastic tournament report. 5/3, I'm a Juggernaut. I read it every 6 months. It's bookmarked.
Yeah. It's one of the foundational texts of Legacy, I think.
Yeah. So a lot of the decks were jumping on the Counterbalance, Sensei's Divining Top piles and playing Trinket Mage to find top, find Grindstone, Utility, Engineered Explosives, Crypt Relics, etc., etc. It's all good. It's all playable. It's all blue soup. It's Legacy in 2010. It's exactly what everyone else was doing. We're going to take a look at some lists here. So these are some early next level painter decks. I don't know who Game Geek is, but he posted quite a few times throughout the forum. He was playing Stifle Knot in the sideboard, which is kind of cool. You get to find the Dreadnought with Trinket Mage, and you're still playing, it's weird. They're not maxing on Counterbalance or Sensei's Divining Top. They're just playing them as a value thing that you can do. And like if you end up locking somebody, cool, you end up locking somebody. So at this point, we're sitting around 2010. I could not have wrote this whole presentation without the work of Drew Fetter. Am I saying that right, Jack?
I don't know how his last name is pronounced actually, but yeah, no, Drew is a legend. I actually I played at this past Eternal weekend. I played I can't remember his name either, but I played Painter Mirror, and he's from Houston, and we were actually talking about Drew back in the day. So I'm pretty sure he knew him and everything, but I was actually chatting with Drew for like a tiny bit, 2012. So I got pretty lucky to at least be able to talk shop with him. But he's in my mind one of the original 5 or 10 guys that really moved it forward during this time period.
Yeah, so every single post on the source was Drew steering people in the right direction and saying the right things and being helpful. Far too often, too, on forums, you have a lot of bickering and you're not so-and-so, therefore. Drew was a gentleman through and through. I think you should play this because this, and this is my experience, and you may have, test it out. Let me know what you think. Very helpful, very polite and cordial on the boards. Julius Maximus, RIP. But he had a bunch of invaluable contributions to the Imperial Recruiter archetype. And 4th place, SCG. I think this is SCG Dallas Fort Worth. And he's playing Figure of Destiny in his board, which is kind of cool. It's not really in line with the game plan of the prison / combo hybrid. But there's Magma Jet is kind of a weird one. That's the Scry 2, I think, or is it Scry 1? Anyway, it's the Scry removal spell and bolts, and it's kind of a weird prison-y beatdown hybrid combo deck. But very cool list, nevertheless. And the other person too at this point who's continuing to put up results and developed the archetype. His name is Seth R. What's his actual last name, Jack?
Roncaroni. So yeah,
Roncaroni.
he was. Yeah, I always view it's like Drew, him, and in Hollywood are the main three. But again, the source was, I always joked like, oh, if you want to go learn Painter, go read the old threads. And at the time, it was only 4 years of posts by like 5 or 10 guys. So
It
of
was
course it's a lot easier to follow.
It was 176 pages. The first Imperial Painter thread is 176 pages. It took me so long. It took me like 4 days to read through all of it and like parse through all of it. It was something. So these guys putting in a bunch of time and effort into developing the archetype. But by 2010, 2011, the legacy landscape is beginning to change. The most notable thing that happened in 2010 is the set World Wake. You get Jace the Mind Sculptor. Surprise, surprise, the best way to stop a 4-mana blue Planeswalkers with Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast. Keep rocking. Keep playing 8 of those. Like, you're forever never going to lose to Jace. And I'm sure Jack will echo that. But you have, with Rise of the Eldrazi in 2010, you have Show and Tell decks now becoming one of the best things that you can be doing in Legacy. At that point, Imperial Recruiter hits $200 USD on Star City Games, and Painter's worst matchup, which was Zoo, one of the worst matchups for Painter was Zoo. By 2011, by the time Delver Secrets had replaced the entire Zoo archetype, which RIP, like Wild Nicottle, Curd Ape, Loam Lion, Step Links, Gaddock Teague, all of the fun Zoo stuff, almost completely gone by the fact that you could just play a Delver, flip it, and you also have Force of Will and Daze and cantrips, and you can tie everything together a little bit better than like the variants that the Zoo deck did have. During this time as well, Mental Misstep for a brief 6 months or something like that ended up coming into the format and getting axed almost immediately. I played 4 Mental Misstep in my Grand Prix Providence deck. I played Merfolk. And I was also playing a lot of Blue-Red Painter Servant, like Countertop, and this is my introduction to the combo, was pretty much when the deck's worst matchup in Emrakul started showing up. So here's a deck list from 2011. This is George's deck list from the daily that he was talking about earlier. George, you want to walk us through this deck list?
Yeah, so Drake was doing the research on this, and he's like, "Oh, George, look what I found. I had no recollection of like this specific deck list. It was lost in my memory, but looking at it, it's interesting. I don't know why I'm playing blue other than just Force of Will good, right?
I mean, Intuition
I
opens
do
up some
remember
of the coolest like turn twos, I think, with the
it.
Goblin Welder, right?
It does. So Goblin Welder, I guess Intuition is kind of like Goblin Engineer, right? Before 10 years earlier, I suppose. But the Lion's Eye Diamonds letting you weld in the grindstone or weld in the painter with the LED mana to crack the grindstone is pretty cool. It looks fast. I don't really remember it, but it looks pretty fast with Force of Will to say, no, I'm not going to lose to whatever you're doing.
And while the blue count looks low, keep in mind that 99% of your blue count is 14. You have 14 blue cards, but you do have Painter Servant, so
your blue count's also 60.
Your blue count is 60, right? But very cool deck.
I'm just a main fan of the sideboard, right? All these decks are doing the show and tell plan, which is like, right, just purely like, oh, it's sacrilegious as a painter player. I could never side to Emrakul, but that was the tech back then. I was like, oh, they're doing this, I'm going show and tell.
I've always been a big fan of the juke.
And this is back when jukes were not common. Jukes are pretty common nowadays. You have like Eric R. top 8ing Eternal Weekend with blue-black Reanimator that turns into Doomsday, right? The Entombsday deck. Like, jukes are common now, but back then, if you lose to Painter Servant Grindstone game 1 and then you get show and told Emrakul game 2, you're probably pretty pissed.
Yeah.
I know I would be anyway. So this is kind of a cool list. This is like the introduction to the painted stone archetype, where you're using Intuition to set up Goblin Welder piles to kill your opponent. And It's clean, it's efficient. Notably, 4 senses, divining top, 0 copies of counterbalance. What's that about?
We're not trying to go long. We're trying to go fast. There's also like the mana base is pretty interesting too. There's 7 artifact lands in there. Meltdown was just not a concern, I guess.
Meltdown was not a concern. No, I think like the best artifact removal at that point was Ancient Grudge out of like Threshold and Zoo, and like that was even seeing pretty minimal play, right?
I remember it being pretty good, but I don't think that artifacts were a very big part of the legacy metagame at this point.
Yeah, they never really were up until way later. So I'm gonna move on here. Here's just another classic painted stone archetype. Alex Kwan won SCG Los Angeles in 2011, playing the painted stone deck. It's very similar to yours. It has a main deck misdirection and an extra blast, and it still also has the 3/3 Emrakul show and tell loop. So you were on the right track. But like, look at this top 8 here. You got Joe Lissette playing Breakfast. You got Liam Kane on Storm, Dredge, Burn, Belcher, Merfolk, Elves. Like, there's a lot of Dredge in this top 8. There's 4 Dredge decks in the top 16. That's pretty crazy. But like,
shout out Ben Perry real quick too, if you guys aren't familiar. He has some other epic tournament reports. I think it's Everything I Touch Dies or something, but he has some insane ones if you've never read those. Like, he's the pseudo Belcher master as well. I had to give him a shout.
Nice. Yeah, I have read those, and they are very funny. So this is the first. Now we're getting into, it's still 2011. We're getting into up until this point, this is the best finished painter has ever gotten. This is a 1,200 person Grand Prix. GP Providence. This is a extremely stacked top 8. You have PVDDR, you got Reed Duke, you got Owen Turtenwald, you got Alex Majlaton. Basically a bunch of absolute killers in this top 8. And Wilson Hunter, who I believe is on the Brainstorm show, former Legacy podcaster / Legacy grinder, has a bunch of good finishes, bunch of strong finishes. He sleeved this up. It's a painted stone list. It's got Intuition. It's got Welder. It's got Painter Servant. And he top 8'd. Huge. I'm looking at the top 8 and going, the Pro Rug deck has a Progenitus in it. The Hive Mind deck has Emrakul in it. He's got no Ensnaring Bridge. Probably not the tournament that he would win, but good enough for a top 8. And up until that point, like I said, this is the highest placing painter finish of all time. Up until this one, which is add an extra 700 players to the tournament, and the largest Legacy Grand Prix up until that day, or up until that point in time. Kim Grimer playing a mono red painter deck, and pretty standard stuff. It looks very similar to the list that was 3 years earlier. Like, it's still just a Blood Moon, Chrome Mox, Magus deck with Jaya Ballard, Imperial Recruiter. The combo, a bunch of ramp, and notably 3 Sensei's divining tops. And looking at this top 8 too, wow, what a masterfully balanced top 8. What a great format. Anyone want to chime in on how good that is?
How many of those Bant decks do you think have the pancake flippers in them?
More than one. I've looked.
Do they both have the Rocks Warmonk?
I think one of them does, yeah.
That is like the thing that, other than Tarmogoyf replacing Nimble Mongoose, that's the thing I remember the most about playing Legacy back in the day, is playing so many Rocks Warmonk decks.
Yeah, they were great, and the best way to beat them is, 6 blasts.
Some interesting things about this deck list, right? Where you have 1 Welder only, you have 7 main deck Moons, and you have Chrome Mox and not Lotus Petal. And I think that that's been true of basically all the lists we've seen so far. And I'm really curious to see when Lotus Petal starts to become more highly played over Chrome Mox. And I have a suspicion that might be actually partly to do with Shortcake. But so obviously we'll come on to that. But it's just interesting to me to see that at this point it's a Chrome Mox deck largely. There aren't any pedals in any of the lists that I've seen.
Yeah, that's I agree with that. That's kind of strange, but at the same time, yeah, maybe the second color of Shortcake is the thing that pushed it into wanting to split and play pedal. The other cool thing about this is the Imperial Painter source thread was losing their shit when Kim was 9-0. And like they're like, oh my god, he's like making a run for it. And then like he got home from the event and he's like, yo, what's up guys? Here's my tournament report. And it's so cool because like that's exactly what you want, you know? Like you want a guy to just be like, yeah, I went 17-2-2 on the weekend. This deck is very real. Koth of the Hammer, notably very good. And I'm like, hell yeah.
What's Koth doing in there? Is it just a mid-range card to go over the top of countertop because it's a 4-drop?
It's for the grindy matchups, George.
Yeah, it's
He's
really
the best
grindy.
win condition. You drop your Blood Moon, and then all your lands are mountains now. So when you ultimate, your Ancient Tombs are dealing that damage. So,
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
and he's
I like
you're protecting the Jace down. So you drop your Koth. Notably, you have to untap one of your mountains you did not just play that turn. I've lost games that way on Magic Online, being like, I don't know which mountain is visually stacked, either underneath or on top. And then you plus on the one that doesn't have haste, and you don't kill their Jace. But that was the tech mainly.
Yeah, I remember I used to play with different mountain artworks so that I wouldn't do that because it's like impossible.
That's good tech. It's good tech.
And it's also especially good in a deck that plays 8 soul lands, right? Like it's coming down with Chrome Mox. Like it can come down on turn 2, and it's it's no different than a turn 2 Karn now out of the Prison Painter deck is oftentimes just like game over, right?
One of my favorite things about Koth is that if you acronymize the name of the card, it's still Koth.
Yeah, Koth.
Nice, that is cool. So at this point now, we're really looking at the true rise of the Eldrazi. Like I said, bad news for Painter, Emrakul getting printed. Obviously, you can't grind them out because what happens is you grind them, you activate the combo, as George explained on the first or second slide. They mill their entire deck. Then Emrakul sees the graveyard trigger. Emrakul triggers, and unless you can exile their whole graveyard in response with like a Tormod script, they shuffle everything back in. And surgical extraction isn't enough because they get to do it, buys you a turn, but it's oftentimes not enough. And so now what that does is it adds a third layer to the combo. So Sneak and Show would kill players very quickly, and the deck at the time was playing Progenitus and Emrakul as their go-to, where before they were playing like Woodfall Primus in the Emrakul slot, and it wasn't even a bad matchup. It was just something that you could pretty handedly beat. But the other thing too is these natural order rug decks, like what Reed Duke top forward with here at Grand Prix Providence, and the natural order Bant decks also play Progenitus, which has a similar shuffle clause. It just buys you a turn, and the deck's only played one. But that could be the difference between winning the game and losing the game. So what you'll see is a lot of Painter decks now have to shift to Ensnaring Bridge so they don't lose to the combo. So Jonathan Suarez, one of the guys putting in a lot of work as well in the archetype. At this point, you can see in 2011, he's got 3 Ensnaring Bridge in his sideboard. And what's cool about this is it's kind of the shift to the prison style, where before it would be a combo deck first with like, I have a bunch of small creatures that can do the beatdown plan if needed. But this is 2011 is kind of the shift to where things start to shift more towards, I'm going to lock you out of mana with Moon, and I'm going to lock you out of combat with Ensnaring Bridge, and then I'm going to clean up the game with problematic permanence by blasting your stuff. Well, it's all blue now. And I'll win eventually. It doesn't really matter how I win, but I will win eventually. So it's kind of cool here to see. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one thing that I'm curious about is the naming convention here, because wherever you took this from called it Painted Stone, and my understanding has always been that Painted Stone was like the blue-red intuition style deck, and Imperial Painter was the red deck with Imperial Recruiter.
100%.
So I don't know, maybe that's just like a... But I don't know if you guys think that that's also the case with the names, or if
I
if
agree
maybe...
with you, and I will say that SCG at this time was notoriously bad for calling decks Rug Delver. And this is the era of we bastardize every single deck name. It is no longer Dead Guy Ale. It is Black White. It is no longer cool deck name that has been established for 8 years. It is now lame deck name Sultai mid-range is shardless or something, you know?
Yeah, it's no longer Canadian Threshold.
Oh,
It's
God.
Rug. It's Rug.
It is Rug Delver. Ugh.
or Rug Tempo, I think is what they called it, because Delver hadn't been printed yet.
Yeah. Ugh. So anyway, yeah, no, that's what that is. This actually isn't Painted Stone. I agree with you. I think Painted Stone is like the intuition-based blue-red grind 'em out style decks. This is more of just mono-red Imperial Painter. So this is where the pretty quiet up until this point guest makes his first post on MTG The Source, which is
Yeah,
on the
you guys
25th of
will
May. This is unbelievably
you guys will
funny.
have some cool context. So George, you'll probably like this. So like my foray into Magic Online and how I ended up stumbling onto Painter. I got my first laptop 2008, downloaded Magic Online, and I'm playing just ultra casual, 60 card constructed of whatever I can get on there. Just having fun. So like I'm like, oh, I'm joining casual classic games with my, and every now and then you'll run into like tribal like kitchen table elf deck, and then you'll just play against vintage oath. It's like, oh, this is a fun format. I thought this is just like the for fun room. So anyway, the whole point is I'm messing around with random brews. I was so excited when Urz's Legacy was finally released online because that was Goblin Welder, and that was just one of my favorite cards to mess around with. I was playing a book burning booby trap casual deck. If you guys know booby trap, it's like name the top card of their library, and if they reveal every draw, and when they draw that card, sack trap and it deals 10. So I was like, oh, I have this fun little Lantern of Insight booby trap Goblin Welder deck that fuels my yard with book burning. Which is like the deal 6 card from Judgment or whatever. Anyway, it's so bad, but it was just fun.
Punisher card.
And so having this as my
Love
I
it.
like this little weird red deck, and then starting to follow and just read about Legacy, you very much get the red Imperial Painter with the blue-red Painted Stone. And you guys point about the pedal, we can keep going as well later with it. But yeah, the original decks were very much I'm turn 1 dropping a moon, right? And then probably that's good to start getting some incremental beats in, and then I'll probably stumble into the combo, right? The only shuffles in the deck were Imperial Recruiter. So everyone was really leaning into this creature package. You didn't really get any of the more bridges. You had no way to tutor them. We didn't have Engineer. No one was playing Enlightened Tutor yet. So that's really where you start getting this switch of, plan 1 is Blood Moon Lock. Plan 2 is kind of just generic assemble whatever you have, to your point, blast everything. And then that's plan 3 was really, probably after they try to deal with all that, I have a grindstone and a painter in play. But that's why you see no welders. No one cared about bringing combo pieces back. So the one welder was finally a big change that Grimer and everyone else, Jonathan too, really took from Painted Stone. And then that's kind of where we changed it later to, wow, welder is really, really strong. We don't have enough artifacts in the yard. Let's get a pedal in there. And then, of course, then we started discovering, welder top, draw engine, and the rest is kind of history. That's where we branched off. But yeah, to this post, I was coming in. Every single person who wanted to play Imperial Painter basically went through my exact process of, hey guys, this deck looks awesome. Imperial Recruiter's too darn expensive. What can we do? And even till this point, I guess Dark Ascension came out. I actually don't remember when.
Like
Faithless Looting was even here yet. Yes, there you go. Faithless Looting was just here, which makes more sense with goblins, and why also explains why no one had really tested that yet. It had been always the more blue-red.
Yeah, and you were playing cool stuff too. Like you had Sphinx of the Steel Wind. That's
it's so bad. but that's the it was the idea of if you can get it into play against Delver, they lose, right? Most decks cannot beat the fatty, and that's kind of the original Reanimator plan. Is any of these right? The joke even in 2025 they're saying is the Inkwell Leviathan, right? Inkwell Leviathan was a real threat back then.
Right, yeah.
So.
Actual factual people are entombing and reanimating Inkwell Leviathan in 2012. Yeah.
4-1 out for Inkwell Leviathan.
It's
Sweet
funny.
card.
Jack's experience with Classic is my exact experience. I found Magic Online like 2004, I think, and I was playing with Hypnotic Specters and Dark Rituals in the Classic format. Like, yeah, this is awesome. This used to be the best thing to do. Some guy just curb stomped me so hard that it made me want to get better at Magic.
What's funny too about that is I have vintage dredge on Magic Online. It's kind of what I play when I go to Eternal Weekend. I went 0-2 drop this year. Shout out dredge. But you try and queue vintage on Magic Online through League Play, and sometimes it takes like 10 minutes to find a game. And so what I'll do is I'll queue a vintage dredge game, and then I'll go into like the practice queue. And this happened like 2 months ago. My opponent they won the roll. They played like Lotus, Island, Mox, Pearl, Sarah, Angel, Go. Like I think they were just playing like an old school deck, and I just rolled over them. And I'm like, you poor soul. I don't know what's going on here, but like here's 18 power on turn 2. Like I don't know, man. I think they were just playing old school and having a good time. But they didn't concede. They made me attack them and everything. Like it was wild.
I respect it.
That sounds like the post below is Seth, so shout out to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Earlier post was talking about Sea Drake. I know earlier on the source when I first started reading this thread and everything, he had been playing Sea Stompy. That was his deck before Painter. So he has a cool little, I guess, portal aficionado of I was playing this really bad blue Stompy deck, and now I'm playing this, really bad, in air quotes, red Stompy deck. Because for the longest time, right, everyone's like, Painter's a bad deck. That's just what it is. Oh, you're not playing Brainstorm. Oh, it's not a cool Storm combo kind of deck. It has to be bad. You don't have card selection. You're playing a 3-mana 1/1. So it's kind of cool how we've come full circle of like Painter is actually considered, tier 1, 2. And even then right now with this whole post of me coming in is, hey guys, here's my horrible budget list with no idea how to think about, modern legacy concepts.
Yeah. And so this was on May 25th, 2012. It is now June 3rd, 2012, 1 week later. And Jack says, yo, so I have a couple of musings. I have recruiters now, and I can finally join in the discussion about the deck in general. And so within a week, Jack, explain the logic here.
It was actually really funny too. I was living in Maryland at the time. This is right when I graduated college, and I hit up some old friends, and they're saying, we're actually, are you guys still playing Magic? I had no idea really what Legacy is. I had started reading about it, and they said, we're playing this format. One of them had Elves, Mud, and Elves, Mud, Burn, Merfolk, and they said, hey, this store, Curio Cavern, they run Wednesday Legacy, and for anybody who knows, Curio is like probably one of the most influential stores for the growth of Legacy. It was really Northern Virginia versus Syracuse, and those two groups would travel and play. Once the format, like this is 2004 onwards, they would travel and play just original Legacy. Post about it on the source. This is Anwar, the Hatfields.
Yeah, notably too.
David
Michael
Earhart
was from
Keller was
Syracuse.
there.
Here's
That's where I was going with it. I show up my very first day. This is before I have the recruiters even. I have my little budget build, and I sit down. I ended up playing against him. I don't know who he is, like in person. I've started reading the Painter thread, so I know Hollywood and this and that. And I start playing my deck, right? I start playing Painter, and so he starts like asking little questions, and right. Obviously now I understand that he knew all of this, and he's like asking like, "Whoa, okay, how much do you know?" And I didn't know who he was. He's playing Dredge, which is his next step after Painter as well. And he ends up beating me, and after I don't think he even tells me that he is Hollywood on the source, and I end up putting the connection a month or so later. I'm like, whoa, this is you, and we finally end up talking all summer once I get these, and many are like, oh, I was doing this back in the day, but I'm on Dredge now, and then he went to Manaless Dredge. So really in that time frame, as I'm like learning mono red and practicing and buying my recruiters, basically for a year I'm just playing locals. And that's kind of when Seth and I began talking more. And he had always been brewing different colors. And, he was really the one to say, hey, white really has some legs. You should switch and start testing this with me.
Yeah, so before I jump into the whole white part, let's talk about what's happening in 2012, Legacy at this point. So you have Return to Ravnica block. You have Innistrad has come out, Innistrad block with Dark Ascension. You have the first Commander supplementary product in Commander 2011. That brings Flusterstorm, Scavenging Ooze to the format. You have New Phyrexia bringing Infect as an archetype, as like a genuine archetype. Surgical Extraction, and then you have Avacyn Restored bringing Gristlebrand. So things are changing. The worst matchup, my understanding from reading all of the source threads, is like Zoo was the nightmare matchup for Painter. They had removal for your painters. They had a fast clock. They could kill you through just about anything because they had a bunch of burn, and they had creatures that you had to deal with, and the deck didn't really have, you can turn everything into mountains, but you're not going to beat, them killing you. So Gristlebrand being a huge upgrade to sneak attack, that's, again, about as important as Emrakul coming out and changing how that matchup goes. And Painter decks in the Baltimore area, surprise Jack, that's you. You're playing Faithless Looting in conjunction with Top to filter through your draws. But gradually, the lootings were replaced with Enlightened Tutor and adding white to the deck so that you could keep up with, this is a wide swath of change to the format. And so when you add white, you end up with Strawberry Shortcake, which if you want to go through the name behind Strawberry Shortcake, give that a run.
Yeah, I can keep it quick. It's not that complicated. Red plus white is pink. Pink is kind of like a strawberry. And so I was saying Strawberry Painter, and again, Seth was the one who had more of the old knowledge of everything, and he quickly just jumped on the cartoon character, Strawberry Shortcake, and then we start posting our tournament reports, the little picture of the cartoon girl, and it became its own little joke and meme, being told the deck is bad, Enlightened Tutor's card disadvantage, and then it's like, well, I got lucky, I'm 5-1 somehow, it must be okay. And slowly the narrative changed, but really it was just this. If you guys remember what we were talking about earlier, ensnaring bridge was this kind of wild concept. Enlightened Tutor is how you find it. Painter and grindstone are also both parts. Blood Moon's the enchantment. So we really started being able to cut down on all these traditional cards that were more, all in turn one stompy, and you can play what I like to think of as this, sit back, nuanced game of what am I being, what's my problem right now? Is there a window? Can I create one? And Enlightened Tutor really is that perfect card for that. So that's kind of how the archetype really changed from, let's focus a lot more on the grindstone combo, where that had really even taken a second or third seat back in these original Imperial builds for good reason. You're not tutoring the grindstone. There were some blue splashes where you Imperial Recruiter for the Trinket Mage to go find the grindstone. I think Drew was on those during Mental Misstep. But really just changing it to a lot more of this one-ofs, one Blood Moon. Keep the tutor packages, but let's drop the tutor targets. And so that's really what we started focusing and honing in on.
And yeah, that opens up a ton of deck slots, right? Like you end up getting like at least 7 or 8 slots in your deck that no longer need to be. I'm playing 7 Moon Effects because I want one every game. You get to play 2 or 3 Enlightened Tutor with 1 Blood Moon, but then that Enlightened Tutor serves double duty. It finds the Ensnaring Bridge, it finds everything. It really is like the perfect card. And people are playing cards like Thoughtseize, and you can't stop the top of your deck. I mean, you posted in Discord 2 days ago, like, LOL Thoughtseize can't stop Enlightened Tutor, and you won a game because of it, right? Like,
Pox is back.
You also have Top to pick up the card if you need it that turn and stuff at this point, right?
Yeah,
So
that's huge.
like feels a lot more liquid, I guess, at that point, to be able to draw off the top.
Yeah, the extra shuffle effect. Even we were still playing a lot of Blood Moons just because we're going to get into it, obviously, once Deathrite Shaman in the future slides. But Blood Moon Lock was still big, but being able to pivot towards, the other pieces quicker really was what we were looking for. And obviously Top was busted. You can Enlighten Tutor for one half of the combo and oftentimes get lucky and find the second piece in the other 2 cards on top. And all of a sudden, Top is just draw both. Tap Top, draw both.
Yeah, and so Shortcake, the traditional Painter decks, they were Prison first and then a combo deck. And, how would you say that Prison is? Is it like combo control? Is it Prison combo control? Is it all of the above? Like you have the tools to do everything. So what would you classify during this era, like the initial 2012 development of Shortcake? What were you doing to like?
You're still primarily looking to Blood Moon. Again, we still had a couple copies, but you're much more leveraging your life total, worrying a lot less about what they're doing. If it, take a couple hits from the Delver, don't blast it. You're going to need that for the Lightning Bolt. It's kind of a different mindset of, I win a lot of my games via beatdown, some of the original Imperial Recruiter lists. So you're really focusing more on combo, and the prison and the lock or whatever, the control, if you will. That's more of just the, disrupt until combo versus that's actually my, red dragon stompy type chalice blood moon plan.
I gotcha. And at this point, Plateau went from $40 to $42. Hashtag MTG Finance.
Another thing about the name Strawberry Shortcake, if Seth gave it the moniker and he's an old head, any combo deck worth its salt was named after food back in the 90s. And Strawberry Shortcake is a cartoon character and a pretty popular food.
Yep, pulling double duty. That's why even then people said there's posts on the source like, can we name it anything else? That's just such a bad name. I hate it. Like, nope, sorry guys. It's done well in some tournaments now. It's here to stay.
I don't
Sorry.
make the rules. I just enforce them. At least it's not a cereal or something, right? Because that's the other legacy thing. Oh, cereals.
Yeah, make it named after food.
So in 2012, there's almost a distinct split on the archetype here. There's two main styles on how to play Painter, and then there's some other fringe styles. So you can play the mono red Imperial Painter, or you can play Shortcake. People did fine with both. Both were still putting up results, and then people could also play Painted Stone too. Countertop Painter decks still existed, but at this point, Jack and Seth continued to refine Shortcake as an archetype, like you mentioned. They continued with an extremely impressive run of strong finishes on the SCG circuit, putting both themselves and the deck on the radar of people as like, hey, this is something that's viable. It's more than just a meme deck. Like, there's more to it than just $1,000 in Imperial Recruiters. This is something here. There's something here, right?
Can I ask Jack? Obviously, we're talking about how you and Seth developed and refined the deck. What was the process like at that stage? Like, how were you going about like testing it, playing it regularly, and so on? What was it like?
Yeah. So again, going back, I downloaded Magic Online in 2008, messing around here and there. I played Dredge online too. It was pretty fun. And basically, once I made the decision of, what do I want to play? I knew I wanted to play Painter. And going back to the Recruiters or 1,000, my decision basically was, do I want to buy Forces, Volcanics, Fetches, LEDs for the same price, or Recruiters, and build Painted Stone or Imperial? And I said, oh, the Recruiters are pretty cool. Let's go with this mono red. And I was playing Magic. I basically turned my entire collection into Painter on Magic Online, and I'm just playing that. Locals as well, posting about it. Just really just reading Legacy, learning that, and just texting Seth, hey, I played this last night. Have you done? What do you think about this deck? Right? What about Pox? Like, oh, even something of if you're opening up against Pox and the old builds were just pure land destruction. I kept seven landers. I remember a couple times. You open just 7 lands. This is good enough against Pox. So it was really just, again, the two of us texting back and forth, calling, and then again, the source was the place. Everybody else is posting their weekly results. Hey, Star City was the thing. You want to go perform well there. Everyone will be talking about those deck lists in a thread the next week. So the source really was this awesome place of, hey, what about this idea? Oh, I tried out your list. Maybe you don't. Again, Petal was a big change. We need more fetches. We need more white sources. We don't want to commit a card, to Chromox. And of course, then I said Petal becomes a lot better with Welder. You just start discovering these things that a lot of these original lists, that wasn't their focus at all. Not for a bad reason, but they were a lot better at this. Drop a Blood Moon, and now I have a Jaya, and Painter Jaya is game over. You just locked people out of mana all the time. So it was really just this change of, you're looking for that window, and Welder really serves that. Beats counter magic. You can do the Sensei top grindstone tricks of filling your yard when they don't expect it. So it was really just this mindset change of, we're now this quirky little puzzle box versus this, Dragon Stompy-esque adjacent build.
Yeah, I have to say the quirky little puzzle box is exactly what attracted me to Painter to begin with, around like around 2014, 15, I guess, 2015 probably.
Yeah, that was a really good breakdown. So the other note that I have here too is it's important to distinguish how little the format actually changed from 2012 to 2014. In terms of like legacy now, it seems like every 6 months there's some sort of banning. But 2011 saw the banning of Mental Misstep. Obviously, just a gross design. It can't exist in the format. 2012 they unbanned land tax. 2013 there was no changes.
Shout out Parfait.
Yeah, shout out Parfait. Shout out Reed Duke with his land tax blue-white weird miracles deck. And then 2014 they just preemptively banned the conspiracy card type. But like that's it. There was one banning, one unbanning in 3 years. So like format's healthy. Things are good. People like it. And with 3 main set releases per year, like there's not really that much going on. It's good. It's balanced. But moreover, it lets you prepare a deck for a metagame. Like, what the format's likely going to look like 6 months from now. You know what I mean? Like, in current Legacy, you're kind of keeping up, and things move fast, and Magic Online now, and farming data, and this and that, and flavor of the month. But back then, I remember, like, I built a Legacy deck and just wouldn't touch it. Like, wouldn't touch the configuration of the deck for 8 months. And I wouldn't have to, because, like, what it was 8 months ago is what the format was. So, from there, it's really easy to dial in. Or it's not really easy, but it's more simple to dial in exactly what you're looking for out of a 75 and to refine and polish a 75 for what a known or expected metagame is. So in 2012, we're going to look at the Legacy metagame. The Miracle mechanic is added with Avacyn Restored. You get Terminus and Entreat the Angels. So that's Blue-White X control here. Stoneblade, most common control archetype. Canadian Threshold, Maverick, putting up huge results in aggro. You can see that there's basically no zoo anymore. Goblins is still an archetype. Combo is sitting around 27%. You have Show and Tell, your worst matchup. Storm, you were able to beat. Dredge, you were able to beat. But notably, Painter isn't even on here. It's a sub 1% deck. It's actually at 0.03% in 2012. So not really the strongest showing, but again, it's one of those Imperial Recruiters are $1,000. You need them to play the deck. How many people are out here slinging a Lotus worth of Imperial Recruiters to top 8? And like, also, it wasn't really that much of a known entity. People they knew about it, but they weren't playing it quite the numbers that they are now. So I'm going to have Jack probably step in here after I'm done explaining this slide here. But Deathrite Shaman in 2012, Return to Ravnica, Deathrite Shaman gets printed as the most influential 1-mana non-Goblin Welder creature in all of Legacy. It's the glue that holds together every single thing that is greedy and every single thing that people don't like about greed piles. It allowed decks to basically have perfect mana, and it was incredibly powerful late game because it let you drain your opponent or gain life, stop you from dying. It did everything that tempo, mid-range control wanted to be doing, and as much as you go, well, everyone's playing 4-color decks, they are playing a small number of non-basics. I think a lot of the time they would have like Island and Swamp. While it's nice that that Blood Moon is still good versus these, all it takes is like one fetch land in the graveyard and their basic Swamp, and they can abrupt decay your Blood Moon. So in 2013 onwards, there's a lot of greed in Legacy, a lot of 4-color decks, a lot of 3-color like greed piles, a lot of 3 CMC casting cards. The Jund deck is playing Bloodbraid Elf on the high end. Every single blue deck is playing True Name Nemesis, which, again, we play 8 blasts. That's a good thing. But it's hard to compete against, the nut draw out of these decks. So, Jack, if you want to talk a little bit about, in 2013, what your thought process was. I have a few lists from 2014 after this. How did you approach Deathrite Shaman as a deck?
Yeah. Man. So it was kind of slept on originally, but at Curio, I remember Dan Signorini. He was one of these big pioneers for Team America, and I think there's a GP Denver, and I think he went 13-2 and got 9th. But the point is, he was testing and brewing this, Delver Deathrite deck, and it was just the most disgusting thing I had seen. Right, they're on the play and go fetch Underground Sea, which is the classic, it's not a green creature, right? So now they're representing days. So if you play around that, I would be like a normal play pattern is I go Great Furnace, try to bolt your Deathrite. They force it. Next turn, Wasteland your Furnace, and then cast him to Turok, right? So you're constantly under 4 different hard hate control pieces, basically turn 2. And this little Swiss Army knife guy is then also invalidating your Blood Moon. So, the format does properly revolve around Deathrite, and every deck is running it. Graveyard is a lot worse. You have to remember Counterbalance Top is floating around here too. So combo in general is either going to be all in and or this very, I can grind through this control and or craziness. But for Painter specifically, Top was instrumental. If you have all these Thoughtseize and Hymns flying around, you really just have to be able to float stuff on top of your deck. And so you're, hiding a Painter up there. Lilianas are ticking away. So it's funny, I played against Pox, and or that deck is coming back recently. The Pox playstyle, right, was a lot more prevalent back then. Liliana was a premier planeswalker.
Right. Yeah. And so, what about miracles in this era as well? Because this is like during this era was the Joe Lissette, I'll call it Legend Miracles, that played like Venser, Shaper Savant.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know if it was Philip or I can't remember his last name. If he was the European guy who mainly
Schrodinger?
yeah, if he was the one who mainly changed the ponder, I feel like it may or may not be him, but it was always this brainstorm and top are good enough.
Yeah, so
Uh,
he actually was on this podcast. I have a note here as a side note for more history on miracles. There's an excellent Everyday Eternal episode 37, dedicated to the history of miracles if you're a dork about it like I am. And wow, is it ever good. They basically, Julian got like the 4 best miracles players, and they just talked shop about miracles for like 2.5 hours. And the audio quality is terrible, but it doesn't matter because the content is top notch.
Yeah, no, this I was actually playing a lot. I don't have any of the replays sadly, but I was like streaming back then too, just for fun of hey, this is something on the side. There was no leagues, Magic Online leagues. It was daily events.
Yep.
Imagine just Thursday night local or Thursday night FNM or FNM whatever. 7 p.m. 4 rounds, 2 a.m. 4 rounds. So you end up getting this really cool. Oh, this is the European contingent. Joe Lissette was streaming a bunch. Jacob Corey, he was doing some tin fin stuff, I'm pretty sure. But again, it was really this back then. It was, if you know your list, no one can tell you otherwise. If you're also putting up results with it, then it's gospel. So, I'm like no stranger to it, but I fully look back at my list and like, wow, that's incorrect, that's wrong. But if you think of it, how many people are out here testing, you're really just doing it yourself, and the metagame is slow. So you're like, I'm doing well, but you don't know if it's bad or good without, hundreds of matches, just really just nonstop playing and having fun with it. That's why I kept with Painter. Every game is somewhat different. You're
Yep.
kind of always learning something. And again, it was also this, well, I'm having fun with it and I invested in these recruiters. Let's keep going. I mess around with Dredge and Epic Storm as my little, I'm taking a break for like one league or, a couple matches online. But for the most part, it's, keep learning and attacking these evolving meta games.
Yeah, you had that 2009 financial crisis $1,000 Imperial Recruiter sunk cost fallacy to keep you invested in the archetype.
Exactly. So tournament wins certainly help too, but
Oh yeah, no doubt. So at this point, it's 2014. You have GP Paris. Leger, he top 8s with Imperial Painter, straight strawberry shortcake. This is probably the list that you were playing almost exactly.
Yeah, we were chatting on Magic Online actually leading up to it. He said, "Hey, I think this is like a really good like meta call right now. Like what's your current list?" And he starts testing. And so actually it's like one of my favorite. I have a screenshot saved to my computer on the Wizards coverage. Top 8 coverage and profile of everything. He's sitting there holding up a plateau. Like with like finger up, like I did it, like I won kind of thing. And then he even gives me a shout out in his profile. So I was like, man, that's like peak to me.
Yeah, that's
Love that.
validating. That's validating.
So cool.
So yeah, Leger was like a absolute MTGO killer. He used to top 8 challenges, win challenges, so many 5-0s. It has like 37 pages on Goldfish, and I don't know what he's up to now, but this is a 1,600-ish person Grand Prix. He top 8'd with Imperial Painter, probably your exact list.
And
good on.
again, such a stacked top 8 as well. Javier Dominguez,
Oh my God,
Philip
yeah.
Schoeniger, Leger, PVDDR. Like it's there. Everyone's there. You know, it's wild.
Yep. And so after that, this is 6 days later. Jack taking basically the same list. I noticed that you have, it's still 2 Ensnaring Bridge. Very similar list. You want a Bazaar of Moxen Legacy Qualifier. We've already talked about Bazaar of Moxen. Is there anything specific about this tournament that you remember? At this point, there's a big arrow pointing to 3 Senseis Dividing Top. That seems to be the standard in deck building going forward. From here on out, it's always 3 or more until April 21st, 2017.
Yeah, sad day. We're getting there. But actually, for this tournament, the cool anecdote was top 16 paid duels, and it was like second through eighth were like it was like Seas, Valks, Tundras, Trops, and then I think 3 of the others, and then it was like 9 through 16 either got like 1 or 2 duels. First place though was it was only one way ticket to Bazaar of Moxen. And so I said, I'd rather have the cash. And so I took the cash. Second place cash was the same amount. I got $600. But so I think Nick took it as well. But second place was 4 underground seas, maybe MP at the time. But again, market value for that was 600 cash. fun little aside.
You're getting
So I was
$1,000 back. Yeah.
maybe I should have taken my 4 C's instead of like, oh no, I'll take second place prize. But no, I mean, hey, back then, again, it's the only deck I'm playing. You live in young guy paying rent. $600 is insane. So for playing Magic for a weekend, that's awesome.
A good weekend, 100%. And then you had a top 4 finish a few weeks later at SCG New Jersey. 443 players playing basically an identical list. So very successful month for Painter, for Shortcake in particular. So this is yes. Okay. So at this point, this is the fabled Fire Blast story. So walk me through this deck list here. Walk me through what was happening. Why Fire Blast? Why Firebolt? Walk me through why it says Fire Blast, though. I have no idea.
Yeah, this is just Star City deck list reporting. For all I know, my handwriting was bad. You're filling out your paper deck lists, making sure you turn them into the judge. But again, if you look at the list, you're really focusing on double Revoker is great for Deathrite Shaman. If Blood Moon is a big part of your plan, you have to figure out how you're going to lock them out of colored mana. So again, Jaya was the old school way of whatever basics. You can obviously paint or blast a basic, Jaya blast a basic, but with Deathrite, you really want to kill it. You can play Lightning Bolts, but if you're also then trying to fight Miracles, Bolt is pretty bad against Sensei counterbalance. So Fire Blast was an Odyssey card, Fire Bolt, which is just a 1 red sorcery with flashback for 5, and it just deals 2 to a target. But again, back then the meta was Deathrite, Delver. You start seeing some young Pyromancer, Meddling Mage, Stoneforge Mystic, Death and Taxes. So Firebolt even being able to go to the Dome, and the pseudo weird synergy of you could always even grindstone and mill it into your yard came up. And so Firebolt was this perfect card advantage card that kind of helped out, make it up for if you're going in on early moons and or combo. You can pseudo claw back some card advantage with this pretty good meta card.
Right. So it's 2015. It's been a few years since we've checked in on what the legacy metagame looks like, but we are Miracles in full swing at this point. We're 12% of the metagame for Miracles. It's kind of inverted with Stoneblade now. The Esper Stoneblade deck playing 1 Trop, just so you can benefit from the green mana of eating creatures with Deathrite Shaman. The Esper Stoneblade deck, it's still as good as it's been. Bug mid-range, swinging, blue-red aggro at this point. You said they had changed to Young Pyromancer. Canadian Threshold still putting up results. Other Delver, I don't know what that means. But you can see that we're finally on the board, baby. It's 2015. We're a 0.8% of the metagame deck. Let's go. This is the respect that you've been grinding for 3.5 years for. And we're finally
made
there.
it.
It's
Finally
2015.
made it.
We made it. So just kind of checking in on what the metagame looks like. Again, it's still healthy. Like, it's still relatively reasonable in terms of percentages for everything. And this is like a pretty great era of Legacy, in my opinion. But yeah, very diverse format still. But Painter, it's on the board. So you win a Premier IQ for in Baltimore, playing what looks like the identical list from last time. But what you have is you have a Magus and one EE main. You've trimmed down to 2 tops. What was that about?
Yeah, I honestly don't even remember. Looking back, I'm like, man, that can't be right. In general, though, I feel like any top has this weird, everyone thinks it's perfectly amazing, but you have to think of, how much mana you end up investing into a top if you don't have other plans going on.
Right.
So, against Delver and or, Zoo decks, top is actually an extreme liability of like, please tap top and keep doing nothing. Again, I just look back of that can't be right. If you guys played any it's like pre-Innistrad Legacy,
I have, yeah.
Going back and I built a list for that, and I think I got second in like one random little pandemic online tournament. But looking at these lists, like, man, I would have built it so differently. Of obviously much more combo like I like now, but just looking at it, it's like, oh well, we're gonna be fine. We'll be able to grind it out, and 2 tops seems great. I don't really have an answer besides I needed to drop something, and it probably should not have been top in retrospect.
And for the people, for the people who don't know how Sensei's Divining Top and Goblin Welder work, can you explain that interaction?
Yeah, if you have a top in play and an artifact in your yard with a welder, you can tap to draw. And normally you'd just put the top on top of your library. But before that resolves, you're now allowed to exchange it for the artifact in your yard. The top will end up in your yard, your artifact will be in play, and you'll still have a draw trigger to then get a card. So you almost now have a draw engine. So it's pretty fun. You don't have any fables, but we're still churning through the deck, seeing ridiculous amounts of cards per turn, especially with the fetches and tutors.
Right.
So I would just say probably Blood Moon was the bigger plan. Once you get a Blood Moon, you don't really have as many shuffles, and top does get worse. But yeah, no, again, this is the classic like Legends Miracles kind of build. I would say like no one's playing Ponder, like that cannot be correct, right?
Right. Yeah. And like, look at this top 4. How do you lose, right?
Lands was a 95 to 5 matchup.
Yeah,
they had
point.
yeah. The rules changed a lot. So it's good. It was a good era for us.
So Shortcake is dominating. Shortcake becomes the de facto way to play Painter. It's the putting up the most results. The big names, the Michael Kellers of the world, John Suarez, you and Seth, Lejay, Michael Mapson. Shout out Michael Mapson for playing fucking Assemble the Legions in your in your build of Shortcake. But the lists were outside of the Assemble the Legions thing. They were starting to really get dialed in and become refined. And Plateau now has moved from $42 to $60. That's a big hashtag MTG finance. But Shortcake.
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to Cornelius Brudi, right? He's the correct Plateau artist. So we were always joking around and memeing that it's like the Italian FTB is the correct that art of Plateau, unless you're the baller out with beta, So shout out Cornelius as well.
There you go.
I think that art went up for sale recently. They're soliciting offers for the original piece.
I saw that.
Anyone got a spare however many thousand?
Oh, house? I bet you need like over 100K for a dual land.
Yeah, I was gonna guess like a couple 100,000. Yeah, but I have no idea what the art world.
It's a pretty small painting, but yeah, it'll go for a pretty penny, I imagine.
So the original was lost, though, right? Is that how it? Like, there's a story behind it, and I forget what it is.
They lost the digital file for it.
Right.
It was corrupted, or they literally lost it. So they had to get. It's Drew Tucker, right? Did the revised edition. So they got Drew Tucker to draw a Plateau up when they couldn't retrieve the original artwork from beta.
Yeah, crazy.
Or unlimited, I guess.
Yep. Okay, April 24th, 2017. Banning of Sensei's Divining Top. This day would come. I can't believe somebody actually put a sign outside of Wizards headquarters to ban Sensei's Divining Top, but man, we
I think that guy I think that guy also delivered pizzas to Wizards of the Coast saying ban Sensi Top.
That's really funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Before we like move on from Sensei's top, I would love to talk about this thing of like how many tops we should have been playing. I mean, this is right when I started getting into the deck, and I was just building it right when they banned top, so it was a very sad day for me because I was like, I think the weekend before the ban, I was gonna go to my first like local Legacy monthly, and I'd just been building the deck, and it was my final year of university, and I had to like cancel my ticket, I remember, because I was just like I had to finish like an essay or something, or dissertation or something, and I was like, fuck, I can't go to the tournament. And I was going to be my first tournament playing shortcake in paper, and then they banned top, so that was absolutely tragic for me. But I remember looking at lists online a lot, and there was this one guy who I want to shout out, which is Pink Frosting, who used to just play a ton of leagues with Shortcake and 5-0 quite a bit. And he was, I think, the only one playing 4 tops. And I just want to ask Jack, would you, if you could go back now, would you play 4? Do you think 3 was right? What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, with how good Welder is, I'd probably go back towards a 4 type build, just given it's so efficient. The general, thought process was always you only need 1 top, right?
Yeah.
And how people built decks was if you want to see it in your opening hand and all the time, you need 4. If you want to see 1 a game, run 3.
Yeah.
And that was just general practice of how people build legacy decks and, approached mathematical, 60 card deck, 7 cards drawn. I expect to see X cards. So again, but then if you think of 2 tops as the draw engine, Lotus Petal becomes so much better. I have a list that I was like, I was never running even a Mox Opal. And now I do, with Saga and everything. But you look back at these lists, like, again, think of what the primary plan was. Blood Moon Lock was still, very, very, very good, and or plan 1A. And so the rest of the deck is also still plan 1B. And now it's 1 Blood Moon. You can go up on E-tutors, but just turn 1 Blood Moon was always the you win games all the time. They don't answer it. You just that's it. Turn 1 Blood Moon. So
sure.
4 moons
Sure.
and figure it out from there.
All right. So top was banned for the Sins of Miracles, obviously, and all the other decks that played Sensei's Divining Top, whether it be Nick Fit, Painter, whatever, they're shot in the leg, and it's an unfortunate time for Shortcake as an archetype. Reading the forums at the time, people were like, "The sky is falling. It's over." It's crazy. And the biggest thing is people actually thought this would be the thing that would do in Shortcake. Jack, what do you think of that? What did you think of that at the time?
Oh, I was devastated. I was I was living out in California in grad school at the time, and like I think I had even played like a Channel Fireball, some random little Saturday tournament and top 4'd it. $30 entry, get like 200 credit or something. I'm like, all right, man, yeah, Shortcake is really fun. I haven't played, but it's feeling really, really good. We were just starting to experiment with LED even, right? So the whole point of like why weren't we playing this many of tops? Again, really go back to I'm stubborn on, well, if it's working and you're doing pretty well, why am I going to change these 5 cards? Really, it's, I'll change 1 at a time, but even that might be a couple month process. So like adding the 4th top would have been its own, like, what am I cutting? But getting the LED in there was huge. And so that changed a lot and really started making what I think of like Shortcake now. LED is like instrumental. But back then I was devastated. I was like, Painter's done. I was just having fun in California surfing and stuff. So when I came back in the fall, I wasn't even playing Painter. I was playing Dredge as my little fallback still. And I got lucky, and actually I won a Star City event with Dredge. And I shouted out. And I was going to shout out the Ned Leeds one as well. So, and I my prize, actually, I bought a Mox Pearl from Star City. It was 900 store credit. I got like 1,000 credit or something for the tournament. Bought myself a Mox Pearl for 2017 or 18. But But basically, Seth was another one instrumental. I forget who else might have been testing on the forums, but he was really like, hey, you need to try this build. You need to try this Smuggler's Copter card. This thing is really, really, really strong. And it's, again, if you think of Seth was really doing a lot of the 2008 to 2012 testing and what that build was, where it was a lot of more of these aggro creatures, he even had a lot more experience with that style and was big on, hey, let's run this card. We were getting Grim Lavamancers in the deck, with Copter, fighting Death Rights, it's pretty big. So he brought me back in with Copter builds, and we kind of refined it again from there.
Okay, awesome. So post
I kind of jumped ahead, but
yeah, no, it's fine. You're like two slides ahead. It's fine. So post top ban, people still want to play control. Obviously you have Anurag Das, shout out to him, making every single challenge go the full 50 minutes on Magic Online from like 2017 to 2019. This is like my time of playing a bunch of challenges. But Thomas Marr, obviously a Czech player, creates the Czech pile deck where he shifts from good stuff 4-color Delver to just 4-color good stuff mid-range, beat 'em up, Snapcaster Mage, Call Against Command, still playing Jace the Mind Sculptor, Baleful Strix. And so the Void of Control it's now changed from like a dirtily Sensei's Top lock deck to now just like a mid-range beat 'em up. Everything I do is a 2-for-1. You need to keep up with that. But everything is still blue minus Call Against Command. So here's a 5-1. I think I top 8'd a 100-player challenge during this time. Again, 3 Call Against Command, 3 Hymn to Turok, 4 Deathright, 4 Strix. This is just have fun beating this mid-range deck. It's a mid-range deck. It's a control deck cleverly disguised as a mid-range deck. But during this era, I don't really think I had a problem ever beating Painter players. But I didn't really play against a whole lot of Painter because people were pretty low on the deck. Like doing my research, people were like, I don't know how I beat this. I don't know how I beat that. And then there's you just on the forum be like, 3-1 to locals, 4-0 locals again, and Seth also putting in work. So at this point, you guys shift over to Smuggler's Copter, like you had alluded to, and walk me through this deck. So before you do though, let's talk about this top 8. All of the Grits' control decks are actually Czech pile decks. And then the 4-color loam decks, like Matt Vuk, that's Ozymandias 17 on Magic Online. I think he top 32 champs again this year. Guy's a monster player. Will Pulliam, same thing. 4-color loam. Lots of just 4-color Deathrite piles. David Long has now changed from lands to Golgari Depths at this point. And there's a Michael Plummer, again, another famed legacy player, playing Grits' Reanimator. So walk me through this list with the Smuggler's Copters, and then we're going to talk about Brian Durkin's sweet mono blue Painter deck.
Yeah. This tournament was awesome. This was a 15 rounder, 2-day tournament. I think my first loss, I was like 4-0, and I got mana screwed against Death and Taxes, and then I was 7-1 and got dumpstered by Infect in round 9, which is like that's been my nightmare matchup. It's just they always have the turn 2. But also shout out Vuk. I have a feature match against him in this tournament, and I beat him luckily. And then he goes on and wins the tournament, so he got the best of me in the end. But I think of this one for 2 reasons. Well, 3 really. So the list, the canonists, right? That was the big change with the Copters. Everybody is still using Probe, and so if you that's just like a time, or all the cantrips for these decks. It's just Time Walk. And so Canonist is amazing for that. Like, nice cantrip. Like, my turn? Okay. And so you beat down, you control everything. Storm is a buy. Show and tell is super easy.
I have a note here on the bottom that says, like, in 2018, Cyrus Corman Gill, like, the Ad Nauseam deck was everywhere. Like, Cyrus at that point went on, like, a 1.5-year long tear where he just won everything.
And there were a couple, there were a couple, like, literally Thoughtseize bugs in real life tournaments of Thoughtseize my canonist, draw the next one. So, but this tournament as well, I always think back. I punted completely. I lost against Show and Tell in like round 12 or 13 that I should have won, where they abraded something of mine, and like I could have surgicaled it, and that was their only out to like Enlightened Tutoring for the bridge I was about to do. But for some reason, I just went and got bridge. And they had second abrade right away. And I was like, I had the win if I just literally looked in their deck, looked in their hand. I had no idea why I didn't. I just chalk it up to like, well, it's round 12 or 13. You've been playing Magic for like 30 hours. You know, drove back and slept. Like people kind of always glaze over like the actual tournament stuff. You know, like one little mistake round 12, 13 is even more impactful than, you know, something in round 1. But that's why I always remember, you know, choked it away, but hey, still top 16, not too bad.
Yep, and Durgar Hedge Mage in the sideboard as well. Monster
I
card.
think also like Eldrazi, I don't know if we really talked about it, maybe we will in the future, but right, Eldrazi was always this weird deck that would come and go. And it, again, Painter turns off Eye of Ugin, and so I remember it was like around 14 or 15. I go turn 1 Painter, they drop an Eye and try to play Mimic or whatever it was. I go, that doesn't work that way. They go, can I play a different land? I'm like, sorry, man. Like, you'll remember next time.
Yeah, quite right.
Very Sword of Fire and Ice too. Won so many games. Turn 2 Stoneforge, tutor it up. Okay, pass turn 3, turn 4, put it into play. Go equip my guy. Okay, you're tapped out. Falls off. You're Evoker. Sorry.
I love about that as well is that they think they're getting you when they do that for the first time. They're like, oh, everything's blue. I'm going to give my guy protection from everything on the, and it's going to win on its own. It's like
my Phyrexian Revoker on Grindstone is now a Progenitus. It's like, nope, you just tapped out. You have swords in your hand. Okay, blast your Evoker combo. Like GG's.
Yeah. 100%. So funny to see Durgar Hedge Mage in the sideboard of this because I always think of that as like a miracle, it's like an anti-counterbalance card. But it's still hanging out here, which is fun.
You get a lot of it was again Sneak and Show was a bad matchup. If you can always snipe a sneak attack and or even an omniscience, you know, you feel like a god. So it was just a slightly better, you know, do I want to run Manic Vandal? Well, it's more or less the same thing. You know, let's get the enchantment upside.
Yep, absolutely.
So very cool deck. Strong finish. Again, post Sensei's Dividing Top Ban. You've swapped it with Smuggler's Copter. Card's good. Go watch the video where you beat Vuk because Smuggler's Copter game 1 after like a Blood Moon lock, it's lights out. And like 3 damage a turn is nothing to scoff at. It's a quick clock in Legacy.
It's a Delver that loots, man. What could be better?
Exactly. It's banned. It was banned in Standard at that point, right? Like, card was too good for Standard. So, and then you have cool cards too, like Pyroclasm. I assume that was like for all of the check pile decks where you get to like.
Yep. Yeah, Probe Therapy, Young Pyromancer was a, you know, Deathrite Delver. Again, it's kind of just the upgraded Firebolt's no longer cutting it 1-1. Everybody's kind of going wide. Pyroclasm. Even though we run a lot of 2/2s and 1/1s, you know, having the Wrath of God you can control is still pretty good.
Yep, 100%.
Scarecrow survives it.
That is true too. Yeah. So the other guy in the top 8 here, I believe Brian Durkin is a comedian. Like an actual comedian, not just like, haha, it's funny he registered the Antiquities War. But he's an actual comedian. And this is a really cool deck list. And this is kind of one of the things that I'm sure Jasper will want to talk about is just how cool Painter is as an archetype, where you can play it across many different colors. You can play it kind of however you want to do it. You can do like value engine stuff. You can do stompy stuff. You can do beat down weird control. You can play like, you know, whatever you want to do, it'll fit into that deck archetype and it'll work. So I'm going to talk about, or I'll let Jasper talk about this Brian Durkin, the Antiquities War deck, and then he's going to talk about one of his own stompy builds in the next slide.
Yeah, I love this list. I think it was kind of, people were just trying to do, I think the nice thing about Painter, like you just said, is that it slots into anything because it's a colorless combo. And like over the years, I've played every color, obviously red and blue, but white, black. You can even play like mono green Painter. I mean, not that these are good things to do, but like for a local, it's a fun deck. Like you used to be able to, or you still could, except that it's even worse than it ever was. Natural Order with the Painter on green in play lets you get Iona, and then they're just locked. If they let the Natural Order resolve, they're just locked out of casting spells forever, which is entertaining if nothing else. But I was playing blue Painter. I mean, I had played some red Painter, and was thinking like, okay, was sad after the top ban, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know if it must have been at the same time that I then started developing, or no, this is September. I think I was maybe slightly like early 2018. I think before the Smuggler's Copter tech happened in Red Painter, I started brewing this Blue Painter list that was really built around Chalice of the Void, because I thought that was like an exploitable axis for a deck. And that sounds a bit weird if it's a grindstone combo deck, but that was kind of the idea, that you could do something better than, or like, I didn't want to just play like a blue painter deck that was worse than the red painter deck, in that it was trying to do the same thing but without the kind of aggressive blast plan, because like obviously main decking blue blast is a lot less sensible than main decking red blast, given the format has always skewed heavily towards blue decks anyway. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm not playing blasts, what can I do to kind of give the deck another axis? I'm not playing Moon. What can I do to give that stompy side of things? Okay, let's try Chalice. And then how do you get your Grindstone into play? Well, you play Transmute Artifact and Whir of Invention. And then I sort of ended up on this list, which was a lot of fun. And I played it online, and I took it to a few local things. And funnily enough, preparing for this, I went back to like the original source post where I posted about like just the list and little report of a league that I 5-0'd. And the first response to it is actually you, Jack, which I'd forgotten until I went back and looked at it. But it's fun. And you said, while red will always be better than blue, still nice to see random painter shit like this representing, which which is really good fun.
I was like, oh god, where's this gonna go? I don't know. Like, that's funny. That's funny.
And you suggested Mana Maze, which is beautiful. And you ended Fuck Wizards RAP Shortcake. So I think at that point you were still like, mourning the loss of Shortcake. And maybe that was in your dredging era.
Yeah.
Morning
so top. There you go.
Yeah. So I built this, and it was fun. And actually the I don't know, it was full of random cards. I don't really know what I thought Thopter Spy Network was going to do here. It very much has the vibe of like, oh, let's try this. Exactly what you were talking about earlier, Jack, where it's like you're just testing it on your own. So you try this, you tweak this one card, and you tweak that one card, and see where it goes. But it was a fun deck to play, and it had some, it was doing some powerful stuff. Whir is like a very strong card because it lets you combo off at instant speed, except that it has 3 blue pips, so it's an absolute nightmare to cast in your 7 soul land deck. But never mind. I had fun with this deck.
I mean, this is very similar to Mono Blue Painter now, right? Like, it's still kind of, I guess the Mono Blue Painter deck is more of like Emery, and that's how you get your value instead of shutting things down with Chalice of the Void. But like, there's still kind of like weird toolboxy decks that do the thing. And like, Whir is a really cool card. Search for Escanta has a massive place in my heart. I love that card so much.
I love that card too. Sadly, Wasteland makes it like pretty much stone cold unplayable. But yeah, I mean, Whir is
flip it. It's been a while since I've played it.
You have to.
Know if you have to flip it, I think. Yeah.
You have to flip it. That's one of my favorite cards too. I love Search.
Damn.
But Whir is kind of like your Enlightened Tutor. I was obviously taking a lot, of inspiration from the existing lists that were there, but people weren't really playing Blue Painter at this stage. I think it was mainly a red deck, and I just thought, okay, let's give it a go and see where we can go with it, because it was fun to do that.
Awesome. So 2019, let's talk about 2019 onwards. The game fundamentally changed. Fire design, which who knows what fire stands for?
It's fun, interesting, replayability, and exciting, I believe.
Is that it? Is that what it is? I know it's like an acronym, but yeah, that all sounds like that. So with fire design, obviously the format has been power crept a ton since 2019. But the cards that we got during that era, Karn the Great Creator, huge upgrade to the deck, and more importantly, Goblin Engineer, which is a even larger upgrade to the deck. So Karn added obviously one of the strongest end games for Painter. It helped fix a ton of problems that the deck had, and Goblin Engineer does everything that the deck wants to do. And you get to say that you're playing a Goblin deck, which is also an added bonus because you play 4 Welder, 4 Engineer. So you're on technically like Goblin, Scarecrow, Tribal. But notably, Karn can retrieve cards from exile. So like the most important thing is, your Painter Servant gets Swords to Plowshare, and you can just go and get it back. And so getting things from exile is game changing. So huge upgrade to the deck with these two things. In 2019, 5 days before the release of Modern Horizons 1, so we don't get Goblin Engineer, Jack, you played Play for Power in Roanoke, and you top forward with 3 Karn the Great Creator main. This was obviously like crazy stack top 8, by the way. Oh my god, look at Max Carini. Wonder Pro himself. You got Robert Wilson, Brian Gottlieb. Crazy. You got Jack Kitchen, that guy. But
he's a crusher.
yeah, walk me through the first tournament with Karn.
Yeah, Karn changed a lot. Just knowing that you don't have to worry about Chalice as much, surgical, you can build your next tutor package, right? We're already on the Imperial Recruiter package. I've been on the Enlightened Tutor package. Now let's add the sideboard, right? So the biggest one was like I can chop my 4th grindstone. So it's even like a funny joke now of like how many painter decks run 4 grindstones. That's just been like a mainstay for me from the start. But it's okay. Now we get to run, however many you want to count Karn as. The 4th one's usually the horrible draw. So really just rethinking now, we get to run Burning Wish, right? Epic Storm's always had the Infernal Tutors and the Burning Wishes. We get this on top too now. We can run 3-card combo in the main deck, right? The Tormod's Crypt on the side. So Karn's was just perfect. Fits the Stompy mana base. He can plus on Smuggler's Copter and make it a creature that lasts until your next turn, not just your end step. Karn was amazing. And so, yeah, literally first big tournament, drive down. I remember, I think I beat Ant in round 1 with the Thoughtseize bug. And I'm looking at my list, I'm like, man, only 2 candidates, so I must have drawn the second one. But no, I think in my top 4, I beat Grixis Delver there. And Karn was like literally won the game. Down tick, grab a bridge, that stopped a Gurmag Angler. The next turn goes back and gets a exiled painter that had gotten surgical like 3 turns ago. In like a turn or 2, you draw a welder that goes and get the grindstone. You're on the top 4, and that literally was like another Mox. So I lost to Infect. Again, another one of my boogeymans, but what are you gonna do? So I think first was a Time Twister. That might have been for Vintage. But hey, anytime you're gonna get a Mox for Legacy, like that's what people were doing like 20 years ago. So
yeah, it's incredible. So I like this list a lot. I think it's really cool. And then the next list that we're going to look at is from 2019-2020. Obviously they had added Engineer. They're still playing Karn. This is a short-lived era of Legacy where all of the decks were playing Arkham's Astrolabe and Oko Thief of Crowns. This is regarded as the worst Legacy of recent time. Notoriously hated by many people. It forced you to play it banned non-snow covered basics, and that's problematic because now your aesthetic choices have dwindled. But some of the painter decks at that time were playing Arkham's Astrolabe because it's when it enters you get to draw a card, so it's just a really good value engine with Goblin Engineer and Goblin Welder. You have it's pseudo top-esque, and obviously you don't get to filter, but you get to draw many cards throughout the course of a game. That's cool. You can still see though the 2 Ensnaring Bridge, 3 Blood Moon, 3 Karn the Great Creator, and this is in a world where all of these decks, all of the opposing Oko decks are playing 5 or 6 basics in them, and they're still on 3 Blood Moon. Karn would obviously shut down your opponent's Arkham's Astrolabe, so that's kind of cool. Some interesting deck building decision there, and Crater Maker, which is Jack's favorite card, and can't let go of it. Every time I load up the Shortcake channel in Discord, I'm like, how many Crater Makers? Oh, they're in the sideboard this time. Ooh, crazy. But kind of a cool list. It's worth mentioning, but this era of Legacy is kind of one that people, I'm sure, are happy to have forgotten about.
Well, sadly, it's also the only Legacy GP that I played.
Yeah, so
I think because certainly, yeah. I mean, there were not many Legacy GPs in Europe anyway, and there was Birmingham that I missed, and then there was this one in Bologna that I went to, and I played a sort of similar kind of list, but with this Trinity, 3 Welder, 3 Engineer, 3 Emery, 3 Karn, and then the Astrolabes, and I've always thought that obviously it's too complicated to be workable, but I've always thought that the bans should be like for specific combinations of cards. Like you're not allowed to register Sensei's Top if you're also playing Counterbalance. But if you're playing Goblin Welder, you're allowed. And I think the same should be true of Arkham's Astrolabe. You should be allowed to play Goblin Welder with Astrolabe because it's sweet and Goblin Welder is awesome, and we should allow these things to happen. But obviously Wizards
And
don't.
Vexing Bauble. You can add that to the list too with Goblin Welder.
Yeah, you get a
But
pass.
But this deck was very fun. I mean, 3 LED and Emery and stuff just meant you were going fast, and you had 4 Brainstorm, 4 Ponder. So it was like really, like you could start a turn with like nothing in play, and then rip Brainstorm into like Painter, Grindstone, LED, and just kill them off the top. And that was a fun thing to get to do. And then Pyroblast obviously good against Oko, but thankfully that format didn't last for too long.
Yeah, I play a good amount of Bomberman, and Lion's Eye Diamond and Karn the Great Creator together are so incredibly good, where you can just down tick Karn, hold priority, sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond, and then whatever you're getting, you can likely cast. It's fun. This deck looks really cool, but this era of Legacy, I'm like, I didn't play a whole lot of it. So, Modern Horizons 2, June 2021. We got the most important upgrade for the deck probably ever since Painter's Servant in Urza Saga. So Urza Saga does every single thing that the deck wants to do. It adds a secondary B plan in making constructs that can beat your opponent down. You're already playing a bunch of main deck artifacts anyway. Oftentimes constructs are 6/6s or larger, and you can win games that way. And it also helps you find your A plan, Grindstone. It helps you find your Hate Piece, Soul Guide Lantern, helps you find mana and Mox Opal or Lotus Petal, and can also help further your B plan with cards like Lavispur Boots. You guys probably love Urza Saga. You're all here still playing Painter. Let's talk about Urza Saga. George, what do you got to say?
For a long time, Birds of Paradise and Goblin Welder were my favorite Magic cards, and then Urza Saga got printed, and it's like a masterpiece of card design. I really enjoy it. I've played the heck out of my copies that I bought the week after they were printed. I just got the new silly encyclopedia poster versions because they look sick to me, and I can't wait to play with those in paper. I mean, Painter has only existed really for me with Urza Sagas, and it'd be really cool to also play Sensei's Dividing Top with Urza Saga, but only for Painter, not for anyone else.
Yeah, that would be the dream, but yeah. Now, Jack, for Shortcake, how is slotting in Urza Saga?
Obviously, Saga's cracked. One thing that was kind of cool, like probably a lot of people gloss over. If you think back, like so way back when Painter first starts, the agreed upon land base was 18 lands. There's usually 8 soul land, 10 mountain, Chrome Mox monkeys. So for a long time, testing that. Once we dropped the Chrome Mox, we went to 19. And my big thing was I don't want to run to the 4th City of Traders. Comes up too often, it's bad. But my point though is for forever, like 19 land was stock. I'm thinking like 7 soul land, 4 or 5 fetch, 4 mountain, like 2 plateau, 1 furnace. And so Saga coming out, like I basically the day of, I remember I bought my playset for like 5 tickets each online. Like I don't know if I was like the first person literally like posting like sell me your Sagas, like I need to test this. But I started with just 1 because I can e-tutor for them. I'm like, oh, it's a land drop. That's weird. Very quickly you realize like, whoa, like this card is just disgusting every time I open on it. And changing the mana base to basically account for the fact that it is a land drop was like, I literally spent like a month just, testing these, like, can I get away with 4? Is that crazy? What does that mean for the mana here? Like, and so for Shortcake in particular, and like this is a big divergence, I feel like, for how, a lot of the red builds are now. Like, I actively have always been like, I don't run 8 goblins. I'm not as much of the graveyard deck. Again, Shortcake has always been this, you can Enlighten Tutor or Recruiter everything you need to hand. And so you stick with like that first. I've always been like, oh, I want Painter, right? Painter with like the blast is like main plan now.
Mm-hmm.
So Saga, I'm jamming Saga turn 1 a lot more, which means, okay, how's your colored mana? A lot of times maybe you're not going to have it till turn 3 or 4. So my point though really is learning how to like adjust this mana base. Like 21 lands, I feel like everyone just assumes like and takes as stock, right? 22 is the argument. But there's this like really quick stretch where everyone kind of forgot that like 19 was the standard. And we've just like lived in the Urza Saga world for so long now that it's like taken for granted. But there was this actually cool little pressure point of how are we changing the mana to accommodate all this stuff.
Yeah,
I think Khan factors into that as well because it costs 4 and there were no. I mean, okay, there was Chandra, Torture Defiance occasionally, and Koth we talked about earlier, but like wanting to hit 4 mana also means that you just want to play more lands, I think, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm a forever 21 kind of guy, and I get burned by it every tournament. I'll be like, damn, but I don't know what I should cut for the 22nd land. I know that like the Prison Painter deck, it's like you probably should play the third city. Maybe I'll play the third city in Japan. I don't know. I gotta figure that stuff out.
Possibly even be playing 23 lands in the deck that's like certainly the one that was playing. We'll come on to that in a second, but the one that's all like Pyroglyphs and Rings is like you need to hit those soul lands and you need to hit. Otherwise,
I
you're
played
just
that
not
deck for a
winning.
while, and 23 is probably correct, but 22, I think Painter should be a 22 land deck.
Okay, we've got a wide plethora of.
Yeah. And I love it. That's why this archetype is so interesting, because nobody's having these discussions about like whatever Izzet Cutter is. It's stock 58, and whether or not you play Bauble, like Urza's Bauble, or like a second Chain Lightning or something like, or Preordains. Like that's where the conversation ends, right? One more thing on Urza Saga 2. Since its inception up until May 30th with the Final Fantasy rules change, Saga wasn't particularly good with Blood Moon. If you have Blood Moon in play and you played a Saga, it would just immediately go to the graveyard. Now it enters with 1 lore counter on it. It loses the ability to tap for a colorless, but it doesn't just immediately go away. So I no longer, when I board in Blood Moons or board in any effects, I no longer need to take out any Sagas.
I was
That
never
is-
doing that anyway, for the record. I always
Oh.
thought that was wrong.
I was always taking out 2 Sagas when I would sideboard in Moons to get back to 19, which is what Jack said was stock.
I would do the same. I would cut down on 2, and I would board in 4 Moons.
I was very rarely cutting Saga. Very, very rarely.
Fair enough.
It's the same reason as the Pyroclasm reasoning from earlier, is that like if you're deploying Moon, it's because you're winning, and you get to choose when you play your Saga, and like it's rare that, particularly like in a control matchup or in a matchup where Moon is going to be good, that the Saga is still also going to be good, and you can like if you go like proc Saga and then cast Blood Moon, you're laughing all the way to the bank,
Yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, it's irrelevant. Although I'm interested in this like May 30th rule change, because as far as I recall, people were very like sky is falling about this rule change.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah,
was like,
people were losing
"Whoa,
their
the format
mind.
is gonna die. Like Saga's gonna have to be banned," because everyone was losing their minds, and it just did not come to pass,
It
which
did
I think is
nothing.
interesting.
I think I played 250 matches or something with Painter, and it came up like less than 1% of the time in games I was already winning anyway.
I remember I actually lost all the games that I created the Infinite Saga machine, the Infinite Construct machine with Blood Moon right after the rules change.
Yeah, because you've now like pigeonholed yourself into this thing where this will win me the game eventually, but it won't, because playing
Nope.
the game, yeah, it's strange. So moving on here, there's some newer additions to the deck. Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, February 2020. You got Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You got the Brothers War, same year, added Phyrexian Dragon Engine, and then you got Warhammer 40k adding Chaos Defiler. These 3 cards.
Death to the false emperor.
Death to the false emperor. These 3 cards right here. Ironically, Jack doesn't play Fable or Defiler. These 3 cards have done so much for the mono red Painter archetype. If you guys want to talk about them for 1 second, I need to step away for 30 seconds.
Yeah, I've said it a lot. I say it all over the Discord too. I feel like Fable is the best card in mono red painter. Um, and it's crazy that Jack has had so much success without touching on this. Did you test it, Jack?
I played one. I think I had a
Yeah, I was
Baltimore
gonna
top
say.
8 with it. Where again it was my e-tutor. Like it's an e-tutor target for me. But in general, again, my disdain for Fable is more so like in Legacy, like jamming at like Fable's great, right? Like I realized I was thinking about it wrong because I'm like thinking like, oh, it's a turn 3, 4 play. You know, people were just jamming it out turn 1 is when you had the 4. But again, in general, for me in Legacy, right, I tap out for sorcery speed 3 mana and I make a 2/2. Right, that's in a vacuum. If you pass the turn and you die, that's what happened, right?
Sounds a
Mhm.
lot like
So like
Imperial Recruiter, Jack,
in a
except that that's a
vacuum,
1/1.
exactly. But so right, if you think of it that way, I play my 3 mana creature, but I have something in hand now, right? It's the exact same scenario, but like maybe I got like Fairy Macabre, against Oops, or you know what I mean, like, or I went and got my Welder. My point is like, it's always what I want. Like I'd play Fable and I can draw and discard maybe to get my Painter the next turn. Like I'm being like facetious and like saying it's bad, but obviously it's this insane glue lightning rod that once it sticks, you are now perfectly set up, assuming the game does go to this mid-range plan. And
That's the whole thing.
I've just seen too much Legacy where, right, oh, I'm gonna play turn 1 Goblin Welder. I could have played Painter, hold up Monkey Blast, and you die to, you know, Entomb Reanimate, or you die to
Yep.
Oops. And so very much it's this, again, playing a lot of these old tournaments, you see these lists like the Northeast people, Bryant Cook was at most tournaments I'm at, and I expect to be playing against Epic Storm. I expect Ant. Like if I feel like you should be able to navigate these mid range matchups, maybe necessarily without mid range cards, but that does become a lot hairier. And so my whole thing is like I want to make sure I have my plan and it's set up, and again, also just being stuck in my old ways of, oh, I know how recruit, like I love Recruiter, I know e-tutor, like getting my stuff not through the yard, right? Fable in my mind is also a graveyard goblin card,
Yeah.
right? I'm only running
Mhm.
six
Yeah,
goblins, so
absolutely.
that's kind of where I go with this. So I joke of like, right, Creator Maker is arguably horrible, but it does everything I need for
You can blow up an Emrakul with
enabling.
Crater Maker.
Exactly. But again, if my plan A is just Painter plus Blast plus Get Stone, and then everything else is just support that, versus
Yeah, I
let's
think.
make the Goblins plan A, or more so plan 1B. I'm just all Painter, right? Plan A. Like everything is that. Everything else is maybe somewhat good enough. The aggro is a lot worse, but you can still aggro. I'm not playing any dedicated aggro cards like Boots. It's just all, does it help? Like Soul Guide, right? Draw a card or exile a graveyard. Welder, return combo pieces. Dragon Engine's like the one different card from this list that I think is awesome because Recruiter finds it, Enlightened Tutor finds it, Engineer bins it, and then I can cast the Unearth off LED.
Mhm.
So
You
Tomb
can
plus
also put it in
LED.
the graveyard.
Yeah, Tomb plus LED is the Unearth, right? That's its own like oh, my hand is trash. Well, let's just Ancestral Recall.
Yeah.
So
It's so interesting
that's
hearing
my
you talk
one
about
little new
Fable
one.
because I think that it's a valid approach to say I don't want to play this mid-range card, but at the same time, it has been so transformative, and I think lots of people have picked up the deck since Fable was printed, and it's been this like default card in the in the sort of more broadly played version of the deck. And there was a really golden period when people didn't understand how good the 2/2 goblin actually is. Creating treasures every turn is like really cracked. Like I think you would almost play that card for 3 mana. Like it's so strong in terms of providing you fodder for welders without opening you up too much to like null rods and meltdowns because it's sort of a supplementary effect to the card you've already played. And then with the digging and the flip side of it, if that ever sticks, like it's hard to lose, certainly against like a fair deck. But it's at the same time, totally valid that if the format speeds up too much, and I think this is what we've kind of seen with the dominance of Reanimator, it's like you can't really afford to pay 3 mana, even if it's on turn 1 or turn 2. You know, it's that much more difficult to make that stick, particularly if they then take away the thing that's going to let you build up a mana advantage and let you play the stuff that you're finding, which is that goblin that's creating those treasures. If people are killing that on site, obviously that's good because it frees up your painters maybe to live and takes away their removal. But it's a difficult balance to strike with a card like Fable, because it fundamentally, you're right, you're paying 3 mana for a 2/2 and passing the turn, and you're not maybe able to leave up blast in the same way. I think the red mana has become increasingly stressed in the deck with Saga as well. So even though it's fun to be like, why are you not playing this clearly busted card? At the same time, I get exactly where you're coming from in that, you have a very specific plan with the cards that you're putting in your deck. And it's not necessarily obvious when you just read a deck list. If you've never picked up that configuration, you're not really going to get it until you've played a bunch of games with it.
Yeah, there's like this classic joke. Everyone who's played Shortcake for a while, we always make of because we only run bad cards. You're always losing. You can obviously have insanely cracked combo hands and dumpster them with I play Painter and have double Monkey Blast up turn 1. But in general, right, you don't have these guaranteed floor cards, right? Fable, if it sticks and you're going to get 2 more turns, like sign me up, right? If against Delver, I wish I was running Fables.
Yeah.
But against Forge, I feel like Fable is like kind of dead. But it's all completely relative of okay,
Absolutely.
I'm removing this ultra high guaranteed floor of Painter Blast should solve most/every matchup. But again, then you're gonna just obviously run into situations where I draw 2 lands and a pedal, and man, if I could just ditch those and draw gas through Fable or they have to deal with it, by all means. But again, you can kind of backdoor similar value, again, using Dragon Engine, and just knowing, again, I just like going Saga turn 1 a lot more, and you can do just a lot of weird things of, I go and recruit for the Dragon Engine, and then using my Saga, go get LED. That land is gone, sack my entire hand, but at least I have 3 new cards. So, but again, it's always more of the choice. And going back to even what you guys were talking about, the Saga Blood Moon, I was super excited about it. I'll go find my Blood Moon if it lines up to me having Saga on 2 now. I only run the 1, but you can go E-tutor for them. Or it's do I want to go E-tutor for the Blood Moon, or am I going to go E-tutor for the Painter and crack the Saga the next turn and have everything I need? So again, it's just going back, it's this very little quirky puzzle box that I always feel like even games I lose, I laugh with like, man, if I had fetched that plateau and not worried about maybe getting wastelanded, I top deck the E-tutor 5 turns later.
Yeah.
I always laugh, like the deck gives you the tools to win, even if it never felt good. And Fable is very much this, like, you always feel very safe and in control if it sticks, and you're not dying the next turn.
Yeah. People come up to me or like, during a game at an event, they'll be like, "Oh, I've seen this Shortcake list. What do you think?" Blah blah blah. And my like answer is usually something along the lines of, "Yeah, like Jack Kitchen can play that list, but you probably can't."
But that's my joke too, of like, I'm like learning stuff all the time, even my games I lose here. But that's also my fun of, the list doesn't change, and that's what I enjoy. Like, it's still the same fun little cards from year after year, and I think they're good enough. Who's going to say otherwise? But right at the end of the day, it's a card game, so play what you want.
Exactly.
Also, I think that the Enlightened Tutor for Urza Saga is so good against the Tundra decks. Wow, I played Shortcake for about 6 months, kind of on and off, some online, some in paper, and being able to just like E-tutor for Saga, they don't have Wasteland in their decks. They're on like some back to basics Tundra bullshit, right? And you just like make 2 constructs, go and get Mishra's Research Desk, go and do whatever, and it's so much value. They can't deal with 1 Urza Saga, yet alone the Enlightened Tutored 2nd and 3rd. It's very, very powerful. So moving on here, let's look at some deck lists from 2022. We got Tom DeDecker, the guy who's organizing European Legacy Masters. If you play any Legacy in any of Europe, you probably know who Tom is. This is a list from the Grief era. You used to have some Furies main, no Ensnaring Bridge at all in the 75, but pretty standard 21 lands, 6 soul lands, usual suspect. At this point, the Rescaminator deck hadn't really been discovered. This is the like blue-black style. You'll see a deck that's in 5th and 8th from Bram Auto. That is mono black Reanimator with Grief. But pretty standard list from a few years ago. In 2023, here's a non-shortcake plateau build. We're going to talk about the 2 decks here in the top 8. 2023 North American Eternal Weekend, Mr. Fringe 89. I don't even know what Mr. Fringe 89's real name is. To me, he's just the Fringe. I'm sure Jack will know his real name because he'll talk about how this tournament went. But standard red-white, no copies of Enlightened Tutor. Instead, splashing for Plow and 4th, which I know I've watched Julian stream this deck around this era. Similar stuff. It's just like a mid-range utilizing the power fable of the Mirror Breaker, and 4th Aerlingus is like sometimes you can just 4th on turn 2 and make a couple dudes and attack and get there that way. 4th is kind of an interesting addition to the deck. I don't know if I'm crazy about this one, but obviously he came second at Eternal Weekend and I did not. Pretty cool deck. I want to talk about Jack's 8th place deck, and then Jack can tell the story of this build. So Jack is playing pretty standard shortcake for 2023. He's down to 2 copies of Imperial Recruiter, 2 copies of Karn the Great Creator, and this is kind of what the deck looks like now to this day. So,
and it's probably basically what the deck looked like in 2018 as well. Like it's really
very similar. Yeah. Again, this is impressive. So Jack, you want to walk me through how this tournament went? Yeah, give me the rundown.
Yeah.
And like you don't have to go round by round or anything, but
no. I definitely. You guys can go read the report. Because this is the kind of like the culmination of all of it to me. Like I've really taken a step back, like a break of this finish was like in my mind, very much like the Grimer-esque, like, oh, I finally made it. Like this is like the biggest finish for me for sure. I'll just tell you about the top 8 match against Painter where I thought it was game 3. I thought I had it won, or I guess game 1. Also, if I top deck a mana source, I'm pretty sure I win, where I can just go Painter, Stone, Blast all in one turn, like 7 mana. But like I didn't, so I only had the 6, and like I could just kind of tell he had his swords up, and he did. Game 3, I thought I had won, where a similar situation. If I top deck mana, it's probably good enough, but given sequencing, you could probably play around it. But the whole point is, I surgical his Swords of Plowshares in his yard, and it's open deck list, and there's 5 pieces of interaction that can stop me. There's 4 swords and then 1 sideboard of Braid. So if you think about it, I have a 75% chance, just purely off statistics, of nabbing the swords in his hand, right? And the last card is the Abrade, which I only have mana to combo with no blast up. And so that basically did me in where I thought I had it, all right, I'm searching your swords. You have 4 outs. I'm removing 3 of them. But basically, 1 mana short to blast. And then from there, I got buried by, I think it was, a Saga plus a Fable. But no, in general, I mean, it was, again, the tournament covered, the report covers all of it. And I was practicing a ton. I'd been playing a ton of all the Eternal Weekends online, the past couple of years, getting a bunch of top 16s. And this is really kind of my point of overall. Like, if you know your list and you kind of just understand like just general how Legacy plays and, the tempo and how people react and want to do things, right? Don't play your Goblin Welder until turn 3. And then they can't Bowmaster on turn 2. And right, people lose their minds when they can't play on the tempo that they want to. So kind of just changing the game to like how you want it to work, that's really what Shortcake is like. And again, the tutors and everything really help work towards that versus I have these powerful cards that I have to play right now and you can't deal with it because it's more powerful, right? That's how I view Fable. Is like, you can't handle it because it's that good. and I just played it. It's like, well, what if, you know, we're on a different axis and I'm waiting till turn 8? You know, I can just, like an old like what's the old TNT, whatever the old ant grinding station, that old ant deck. It's like they're just draw to 8 cards. You know, oh, you only have 7, you can't win. You know, there's all these old different play styles that open up if you're kind of just more okay with not just jamming, I guess. And I mean, no disrespect to, you know, the other painter list, but that's kind of just how I view Fourth Aerolingus and some of these cards. So again, this is like, I was so happy with this. I got my little Deathrite or DRC Dragon Rage. I flipped it for a Mox Sapphire and some nice cash on top of that too. So can't be too annoyed.
Beautiful.
I love the surgical swords detail because that is such a throwback for me to the Miracles era. It's what I used to do in the Miracles matchup. You like surgical their swords, and then you always hold an Imperial Recruiter, and they can never kill all of your creatures because they terminus, and you just recruiter for the recruiter, and you keep recruiting for a recruiter, and then eventually you just grind them out with 1/1s.
Yeah, that's the old tech, you know. No one will know anymore. But
Real
yeah,
heads,
no,
real
honestly,
heads
like
will know.
I haven't
Recruiter
really
for recruiter, yeah.
So I haven't really changed the list, you know, partially because it's like, you know, almost like a relic of you're just playing efficiently, and right, if the list is all kind of just mana and painter blasts and pieces associated with that. So I just have fun with this. I'm like, I don't really need to change it. It's probably okay. You know, could it be better and or tested and played more? Sure. But I just really haven't been playing as much. I've been doing a lot more pre-modern and, you know, just more things of that nature. You just keep painter sleeved up, ready to go whenever.
Awesome. So in 2024, Arulax had a top 4 finish with, I would call this pretty standard at this point. This tournament was obviously the Mystic Forge breakout tournament. Vexing Bauble, again, that's the card that's banned here in Ari's list. It's obviously banned for good reason. Card is far too good for Legacy. Except we should be able to play it if you have Goblin Welder in your deck. That I agree with. But at this current point in Legacy, Painter was at the highest metagame share it had ever seen, and it's floating around 8%. This Painter build had such a phenomenal matchup versus the Reanimator deck. It just absolutely destroyed them. They were all playing Psychic Frog. Eldrazi was out in full force. It had a fantastic Eldrazi matchup. As mentioned earlier, you know, Painter Servant shuts down Ivugan, Eldrazi Temple, and 2 or 3 other things in their deck. Glaring
Fleshraker as well.
Yep, exactly.
Fleshraker does nothing.
And so it was in a brilliant spot for this tournament, and it's a shame that you know, it had a few reasonable finishes. I think, George, you cashed this tournament.
I did. Arulax gave me my first loss round 8.
And I see you have the Psychic Frog mat behind you. What place did you finish?
I finished 48th place, 8-3.
That's very reasonable. And then, you know, this deck pretty standard going forward for like the next year. Obviously, when Bauble got cut, they've changed up some of the numbers. But now it's 2025. Let's take a look at the ways that you can build Painter. We have been going for 2 hours and 18 minutes, by the way. So this is just like insane. So we're gonna kind of
the history, the full history.
The full history. So I'm just gonna kind of run through some builds here, the ways that you can build Painter in 2025, and we'll talk a little bit about where we're going forward, and then we'll wrap it up. So 2025, obviously the year for combo, year over year. Since 2023, combo has just gotten more and more out of hand. Obviously, things have been banned, and the format is hopefully in a better place. But you know, 2025 year over year, combos at 52%. So that's a lot of stuff to contend with, and ways to build the Painter deck so that it would be competitively viable.
Painter's 2% there, guys. You know, think about it. We were 0 2012 or whatever it was, 0.8 2015. So
I think we're somewhere around 3% right now as well too. So again, it's good. So let's take a look at some lists here, give some people some shout outs. So the mono red Agatha Soul Cauldron build, Kemper Pogue, top 16 Eternal Weekend. Agatha Soul Cauldron is obviously a 1-2 card combo with Phyrexian Devourer. Jack, you were mentioning that you were pretty you like seeing this combo. It gets people all the time. This is pretty standard mono red Fable, and you have this backdoor combo that isn't Painter Servant Grindstone. It's put either discard to Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Goblin Engineer in a Phyrexian Devourer into your graveyard when you have Agatha's Soul Cauldron in play, attack with 2 or 3 dudes, and then the one that they don't block, if they have any blockers at all, you activate Agatha's Soul Cauldron, give a +1/+1, exile the Phyrexian Devourer, give the +1/+1 counter to the unblocked creature, and then they have the Devourer ability of just mill, and then it pumps based on CMC, so you can get wins out of nowhere. It's a relatively compact thing, and obviously the benefit of playing Agatha's Soul Cauldron main is 20% of the format is on Reanimator, and 10% of the format was on Breakfast at this point. So you're kind of hedging your options towards the high end of the metagame, but obviously Agatha's Soul Cauldron is sometimes useless in certain matchups. I look at like Mystic Forge and go, outside of killing somebody very, very quickly, if they have Karn in play, you can't activate it. You know, it's not necessarily the strongest thing, but it still wins a lot of games. Turbo Painter.
Two fun real little anecdotes about that if you want to go back
go
one
for it.
slide
Yeah,
too.
go for
So
it.
shout out Emperor. He was an OG from Curio Cavern as well. I met him 15 years ago. He was playing Zoo. So
Blue
full
Zoo.
circle. He's come around. I think just Zoo, but I don't really remember. But yeah, you might be right. But so I was actually talking to him. You know, he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm on Painter now. Like, I think it's pretty sweet." I'm like, and then he goes in top 16. Other one, Hans in second there. He was my round 4 opponent, and we were both 3-0. Game 3, I have him at 3 life, and we're both top decking. And so basically, any lightning bolt is lethal. I don't draw any. You know, if I draw some combination of creatures to beat down, maybe it's like, you know, I go like land, draw Painter. So 2 attacks, I'm able to get him down to 1. So any other creature maybe gets him. And didn't draw any grindstone either. So basically 5 turns, I view it where, you know, I'm drawing extremely live to go to 4-0. I fail. He beats me down with some void walkers that he finds. Ends up going to the finals. So just another one of those little, hey, if it turns out and was meant to be, you know, I'm 4-0 and we don't see him in second there at all. But that's how my tournament went.
Winning the whole thing.
Could have. I used up all my luck in 2023 though. So.
So looking at this list here, this is a list that Bobby Light_Walker on YouTube. This Bobby records a ton of Painter content and uploads them to YouTube. He has probably some of the highest amount of trophies with Painter. He's been playing the deck for a very long time. All of his videos are very good. We love Bobby. His contributions to the Discord are endless. I like this list. I think it's really cool. It's just 8 blast, all in, 3 copies of LED, all the fast mana, 4 grindstone, 4 Painter Servant. Just, I'm trying to put my opponent in the dirt. And I love lists like this. I think that they're fantastic. And Bobby is a big fan of Mishra's Research Desk. Big fan of that card. And I think it's pretty good in this deck where you're trying to fire off your first salvo and then reload and do it again. And also, you get some Imperial Recruiter equity here, and that the $750 that you sunk back in 2012 gets to come out of the binder again. Not that you're not playing them.
I don't think he got his money's worth from them.
I don't think so either. No.
All I'll say about Mishra's Research Desk is if it was that good, you'd be playing more than one.
Interesting. Have you tried Melded Moxite?
I have not tried that card actually. No.
That's like
I mean, I don't know. Research Desk, I think, is fine if you're with LEDs and stuff. I think it's probably playing a role, but I think that it's a very do not a lot kind of card.
Okay, all right. Prison Painter, George, I'm gonna let you talk about this because you were the guy who kind of talked to Can for a bit about it.
Yeah, Prison Painter Canakin last year posted, I think it was a top 16 result with Ring Painter. It was like a Moon Stompy Painter hybrid. I talked to him very briefly last year, got some sideboarding advice, took his list-ish to Eternal Weekend, did very well. A couple of weeks before, or maybe like 2 months before Eternal Weekend NA this year, Canakin posted a 5-0 of this list. I saw it because I follow him on Twitter. I brought it to the Discord. a couple of weeks pass by, Discord gets interested. Drake and I start talking and iterating along with a couple other guys, Real Gamer and a couple of European fellows over from the Discord started playing the deck a lot. And Drake and I took it to Eternal Weekend this year. We had pretty good results. Could have been better, could have been worse. We did better than other painter players, but not as good as Kemper.
Yeah, I think the deck was quite good at beating up the upper metagame of 2025. So like of the decks that you cared about, you had Mystic Forge, Reanimator, Nadu, Blue Black Tempo, and Mono Red Stompy. And the deck was testing relatively positive against 4 out of 5, with the thing being Mono Red Stompy. But that's very much draw dependent, and Karn does. If you see a fast Karn, you can win that matchup no problem.
I think it's also pretty coin flippy for Moon Stompy. I don't think it's actually as bad as Kanakin said it was.
I agree, yeah.
Look, if you're attacking a metagame, this feels like a perfect metagame deck. It's counterintuitive to see all the ensnaring bridges and blood moons and only 4 blasts, no creature interaction other than the 4 blasts. But this deck is playing to the field instead of playing on the stack, and it did its job at beating the decks that it wanted to beat. You'll never beat a Felia or a Death and Taxes deck with this.
Right. Yeah, 100%. But this was a scalpel to do some very precise surgery for Eternal Weekend, and I think we hit the mark on that. So moving on, we got Jasper's boy here, Callum Smith of the Everyday Eternal podcast. Bog Boys.
I love this build.
George, you obviously played this build 2 years ago.
I do. I love it.
At Eternal Weekend, or something very similar. This is kind of a all-in ring stompy painter deck.
This build also is really good into a grindy, creaturey metagame. Like my local metagame has a lot of Yorions in it, and this build cleans up.
Yeah, I could imagine like Fury, Lightning Bolt, and like even Legion Extruder is so incredibly good. Like it sucks that you can't really like weld it in and out, because obviously the sacrifice that you're making is you're playing no goblins, but it's still just like, hey, you have a creature? No, you don't. And I'm going to draw a bunch of cards with the One Ring, and I'm going to kill you with the best late game. It's very, very good.
It's funny looking at this kind of list, though, having heard Jack talk about Fable. I think this is like Fable taken to the max. It's like, I'm going to put my cards on the table and you're going to answer them or you're going to lose. There's not, it's doing very powerful things. The One Ring is a pretty busted Magic card. And I mean, Pyrogoyphs, especially in multiples, get pretty messy pretty quickly. But yeah, it's a pretty different approach, very different approach to Shortcake.
Yeah. So, Jack, if you want to talk about your list now, I know we've been talking about Shortcake for the last little bit, but this is your list. You posted a most recent thing. I like the egregious altars from Kaya for the Pyroblasts. I like everything about this list. You're not getting a deck list. You're getting a photo, because why not?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, again, the upgrades. Let's see, anything. I sent off my recruiters to get blackboarded by my artist, so those actually are in the mail right now. I figured I should finally bite that bullet. But no, I would old border anything that they could, and probably run it. But in general, it's just hey, I don't really feel like changing anything. It's fun to just look at this photo and know that it's good enough, right?
Yep.
So
are you not running old bordered painters because they're foil, or because you have altered originals?
They're foils. Yeah. I wouldn't run foil.
We were robbed.
Yeah,
I
would change
an old border painter without foil.
if they. That's another question that I've thought about. If they print, like, isn't Lorwyn Eclipse coming up? If they print old border painter but different art, I don't know if I would switch. Other cards I'm like more okay with, but I'm like, those are just iconic to me. So, but I would run old border painter.
All of those special guest cards are always borderless, though. I have high hopes for a painter reprint, so I can play Timeless on Arena with it, but I have no hopes that it will be old bordered.
Yeah, no, anyway, this is just labor of love, and yeah, I feel like it's good enough to hang pretty much like any random meta. So
nice. Stock blue painter. I'll let I'll let Jasper talk about this one for a bit. There are a few different ways that you could build Blue Painter. Some of them play Tamiyo, some of them play Pinnacle Emissary, like the Purple Painter list. But Jasper, if you want to talk about this for a bit.
I think the key thing about these lists, regardless of whether they're playing like Tamiyos or Rings or even Kappas or whatever, is that they're like insanely good Urza Saga decks. They're almost like Urza Saga decks first and Painter decks second, I would say.
100%.
Just in the sense that you're playing so many cards where, you know, you can go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Tomb, and then you're attacking for like 12 or 15 or whatever on turn 3, and it's like a very powerful B plan, or that you know, particularly when you can back it up with Force of Will and Rebuke. I think it's very strong. I mean, the problem is that you, if something resolves, obviously you only have 2 sinks in the main deck. I guess there's a spell bomb here looking at this particular list, so it's tougher to get through you know, your null rods and that kind of thing. And you're also I don't know. I mean, people have tried stock up. I've tried stock up, and I always struggle with stock up because unlike, you know, your show and tell decks where you just need to find like the one thing and then you put your unbeatable 15/15 into play. If you're trying to find like both pieces, and then also a way to protect it, you often kind of need to take the force off the stock up, and it's a little bit difficult to build up the critical mass, because you're not playing to the board quite in the same way, except with Emery and Tamiyo. I don't know. It's like it's not the best Tamiyo deck, even though Tamiyo is obviously a really bananas card. It's mostly because you don't have Brainstorm, you have Thoughtcast to flip it. It's doing all these things, and it's a cool deck, and I've played it a fair bit, but I think it struggles at the moment, particularly with like Mystic Forge and Post kind of doing those things a little bit better because they have Khan and they're kind of going over the top, and they're also stopping you from doing what you want to do with their Khans. So it's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I'll co-sign all of that. I like that. I think that the Purple Painter deck is the best Urza Saga Painter deck, where you can like play the Pinnacle Emissary and then shit out and get like 5 drones that then make the next construct like a 10/10. It gets absurd. I have lost some games that I'm like, okay, I don't even know where I can come back from, or like a quick kappa or something. I think that this deck is very good. Jasper also wanted to talk about the mono white painter deck.
I wanted to give Eddie the intern on Discord, Eddie Hawk, a shout out. He's done quite a bit of work on various white painter lists, as have a couple of other people. And I just think it was fun to just mention because, I mean, this is a list that I top 8'd a local monthly with probably like 40 players or so. So nothing too special. It's not like these are top 8ing Eternal Weekend or anything like that. If your Oswald lives, you can construct the combo with very little other input. And then I always joke that Ingenious Smith is the Callum Smith invitational card. Because his name is Callum Smith, obviously. But
sorry, yeah. My computer had froze or something. Can you go right? Can you just start this excerpt all over? We got 2 hours, 30 minutes in. Yeah.
No problem. So yeah, I just thought it was nice to mention mono white painter. Eddie, the intern on Discord, Eddie Hawk, has done a bunch of work on this deck, as a few other people have. And not that it's like necessarily the deck putting up the most results in bigger tournaments. This is just a deck that I top 8'd with in a local monthly, nothing huge. But I just thought it nicely showcases the way that painter slots in all different places, and you can do fun things with it, and you've got different elements that approximate the things that other versions of painter are doing. You've got your canonists from that period of shortcake. You've got fiddle benders that are in some ways more powerful than the engineer because they get both sides of the combo without going through the graveyard, and left unchecked, it just very neatly assembles the combo with not a lot of other input. So it's just a cool little thing, and I just like the way that it shows you that Painter can do anything, and there's still space for innovation and still room for people to try out new stuff and do cool things. I mean, I know, George, you've recently developed an obsession with mono green beaver Painter. So I just love that about Painter, that it has all these options.
Yeah, I am a big fan of the green painter list. You said earlier about how the brainstorm could let you like draw an LED, a grindstone, and a painter, and you can win out of nowhere. I found a lot of the same experiences with the green painter deck playing consign or commune with beavers and malevolent rumbles. You can start a turn with nothing in play, and then you just combo them out. Problem is that you can't protect or interact at all. You're just, here's my combo. Can you stop me? You can. I've lost.
The problem is that commune with beavers is much worse than ponder.
Yes, but it is 100% funnier.
That's true. That is true.
And I really like the there's a lot of like cool nuanced deck building here with like Oswald, where you have Crucible of Worlds, you have Expedition Map, you have a one of Wasteland. And so, like,
oh yeah,
you're just like going up the chain. Like, Expedition Map finds the Wasteland. Eventually, something else turns into the Crucible of Worlds later. Then you can Wasteland lock them, or like the map can find Urza's Saga, which then finds another one drop later. Which
yeah,
then, like,
exactly.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
It's very toolboxy. And since this, I mean, they printed Marvin Murderous Mimic and pre-war formalware, and there are some really silly lines that you can do where you sack the Marvin to itself, getting back pre-war formalware, getting back Marvin, and then you sack the pre-war formalware to the Oswald and get the One Ring from your deck. And it's like very like it's very fun.
That's cool. That's cool. And I also like sometimes I see Mother Runes in this deck, and I think that Mother Runes is really cool when you get to name one color and you have full protection from everything, like blocking, removal, whatever it is. It's cool.
Mm.
And the Stoneforge is a juke as well, especially if you're playing the
yeah.
It's probably not even a juke if you have pre-war formalware now. It's probably just main, right?
Yeah. That's what I most recently played.
So November 10th, 2025, we got a new format. They banned Entomb, and thank God they banned Nadu. Thank God. So where are we taking the deck from here? We have Eternal Weekend Europe next week, right? I think it's
I will
next
be
week.
there.
Japan is 2 weekends after that. I will be there. I'm probably going to innovate, as in change 2 or 3 cards in the Prison Painter list and figure out what I'm doing there. And play Prison Painter at Eternal Weekend Japan. That's kind of my game plan. Jasper has a deck that he can't talk about. So we're gonna leave
I've been cooking. We will see. We will see what happens with that.
Look for the first place deck list.
Watch this space. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I don't know. I'm still undecided. I know what I'm doing for the team event, which is this fun little brew that my friend Francis and I have been working on. He's one of my teammates for that. And that is a painter deck, but it's not like any of the ones we've talked about today. And then for the main event, I mean, we've spent like close to 3 hours talking about red painter, and it's really made me want to register Goblin Welder. But we will see.
I thought you were going to say really made me want to register blue.
I am a little bit concerned about how red painter is positioned at the moment, because of how good I think Forge is, and I think the mono blue post deck is also pretty awkward, even if it is blue and you have blasts. It's just tough to fight through those things. The cutter deck I think also is notably a worse like Delver matchup than the blue black tempo was, just because they have more answers to your stuff. They have bolts that it's harder to stabilize against that deck than it is against the blue black deck. Also, their best threat I think is DRC versus the blue black deck's best threats being like Tameo and Murktide. And so it's like it's a difficult metagame right now, I think. I don't know if you guys disagree for red painter.
I agree
but
with most of it. I think that the Is It Cutter matchup is quite difficult, and like you can't rely on ensnaring bridge as heavily as you could
yeah,
before.
exactly.
And so like they just go wide, and then they'll like play 2 or 3 instants after they've declared
Yeah.
attackers. And like Blood Moon obviously isn't very good in that matchup. The thing that does correct the Mystic Forge and the Cloud Post matchup is Damping Sphere. So consider that, but then like that, it's just fine versus like you wouldn't even board it in versus Is It Cutter, right?
Yeah, it's
So
tough. It's
like
just a tough
you're
spot
just
right now,
stretched
I
a
think.
little thin, but I mean you can always just hope to dodge too, right?
I
I
lost
actually-
the final of a European Legacy Masters qualifier a few months back to Cutter. So Cutter, I think, is just one of those coin flip Delver decks. It delvers you sometimes, and sometimes you get to outvalue it. But they're just always live to draw like bolts and stuff, and
Yep.
it's hard.
I actually don't think that the blue post matchup is super scary because they are not on Eldrazi.
That's
So
true.
you can actually just combo them, and the blue red Delver matchup is problematic. Definitely, I think need to rework and get some bolts in, but that deck is also suppressing Mystic Forge in the first part of this new metagame. So you
Also true.
might be able to dodge Karns a little bit due to Is It Delver keeping them down.
I think that's true. For me, the card that I'm most interested in trying to do stuff with within Painter at the moment is Lion's Eye Diamond. That is what I will say.
Maybe you go fast, go Ricky Bobby fast.
Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast.
Yeah, one quick shout for LED. One of my matches actually the past week or so, disruptor flutes everywhere, and so Fable's great for pitching named cards. They named Painter. I don't have 5 mana. But my Saga goes off. Find LED, bin it through the yard for the welder. So, shout out LED there too.
Yeah, LED is multifaceted, very good card.
Can you name LED with Disruptor Flute?
I mean, for the cast,
you
can make it
can.
cost 3, but you can't.
They
turn
named
off
Painter
the...
in this case, so I was like, I can't cast my Painter in my hand.
Y-
So LED is my
Yeah,
discard outlet. But yeah, I think you can. Yeah, I think it's mana ability. I think LED gets through it.
it does. I learned that the hard way, but I've also taught people that the hard way.
Yeah, it's like the old Revoker Needle tech that
Mhm.
never pops up anymore. But
Yeah,
RIP.
I learned it through Needle. I tried to Needle a Storm player on LED, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, great." And then they comboed me. I was like, "Well, but I named it." And they said, "Yeah, but you're wrong."
Same with Food Chain.
It's a legal name, right? You're allowed to name
You're
it.
allowed to name
Just
anything
doesn't-
you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like playing Ayabugan into a Painter Servant on turn 1.
Yeah.
Or
it's a good
you
card.
needle
no text.
Simian Sphere Guide.
I was gonna say we've not talked nearly enough about the card Simian Spirit Guide today. That's I think the one major miss is that we've barely mentioned it, and I think it's like secretly been one of the best cards in the deck for a long time.
I will agree with
Yeah,
you with that.
I would go to 4 for all you guys. I've been 4 forever, and to your point, I'll give the quick spiel. Right, that's how you fight. That's how I fight Delver. They daze you. If you get the Simian on them, it's tempo suicide for them. Right, they've
exactly.
completely lost. I mean, not lost, but you get the idea. It's game changing.
Uh-huh.
How many times you win the game passing with only 2 mana up, 1 mana up, and they think you can't grindstone them in response? So many epic times, even in the past, tapped out completely, and there's 3 monkeys, right? that's the dirtiest one.
So many times in the past. All right, man.
Listen, Jack's played a lot of Painter.
Yeah.
I mean, especially top, right? You're constantly setting it up. You're like,
Yeah, I
oh, I'm
guess so,
floating 2 monkeys on top. I'm like literally baiting them to show I'm mana screwed. So there's a lot of little like nuance that you can do, even not making your land drops, to make them think that you can't combo right now. It's really, really, really fun, and Monkey is the perfect card for that.
Yeah, Monkey is great. All hail Monkey.
All hell Monkey. Also, car doesn't shut off Monkey.
So, closing thoughts here, guys. Wow, Painter. We've been talking about Painter for 2 hours 43 minutes. My God, it's again, it's something that's truly special, right? It means a lot to everyone here. It's It's
It
good.
sure does.
The archetype itself hopefully will continue to be competitively viable. I think no matter which color combination you play, no matter which way you build your deck, there's so much customization within the 75 that you can ultimately decide. Note I said 75. We're not playing Yorion Painter. That would be sacrilege. But there's so much customization within a 75 that I think that you can configure your Painter deck to hang with pretty much anything in Legacy.
Or you can just play the same deck for 13 years.
Yeah, you could. You could. I mean, it's working out well for Jack, but for everyone else who's like, all right, what's going on here? But there's enough ways to build the deck. I think that I think that we'll be able to hang for a long, long time. And so I just want to give a special thank you to everyone: Drew Fetter, John Suarez, Michael Keller, Jack Kitchen, Seth Roncaroni, Callum Smith, Jasper for coming in, Robert Russo, it's Lightwalker, Colin Chilbert for hosting the source. You as well, George. Thank you for giving me 2 hours, 45 minutes of your time. Thank you to the entire Painter Discord and all of the hardworking individuals who are working at testing the deck, putting in the time and effort, and sharing insight. So if anyone wants to be found, where can you be found?
I am on Twitter at Whiffy Penguin. I'm also in the Painter Discord at Whiffy Penguin. I change my name a lot. Right now it's the Whiffy Hue Gatherer, but you should not look for Whiffy. You should look for Whiffy Penguin because I'm going to change it again probably.
Jasper?
I was gonna.
No,
sorry.
You go ahead.
I'm on Discord, but I was gonna say, message me on the source. We're gonna bring it back. I'm posting more pre-modern there. I want to just start posting more legacy for that too. I like reading on the source as well, and again, you get the entire history. So part of me wants to start bringing it back and at least posting more regular updates. I've been pretty bad about it, but I'm going to, especially with it being down. I was like, yeah, I have all my old reports just, in Word docs and stuff. But I was like, man, I do miss all that stuff. So I do kind of want to bring that back. So the source, that's where we should go.
I will also say, do come chat on the Discord as well, even though it is different to the source. It's a lovely place. It's been such a joy to be running that now for a good few years, and we've got a bunch of people in there always talking, always sharing ideas. It's a very friendly place. If you're interested in the deck, people will, you have to kind of take into account the old shortcake heads who'll make fun of you for playing Fable rather. But it's all in good fun. And yeah, I mean, my socials are not really Magic focused. But if you want to chat on Discord or the source, I'm just Jasper there. So just hit me up. Always happy to talk Painter. Love it.
And I'm also in the Discord. I think Swagohod CS on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, come hang out in the Discord. Post us
on the source. I'm actually literally just Jasper. No just in the username. So you can find me there too.
Awesome. So if you guys made it 2 hours 48 minutes in, it's impressive. I hope that this video inspires other people to do the digging. I'd love to see more. I would watch a 3-hour video on like the history of Doomsday. I don't even care much about Doomsday, but I would love to watch somebody put that together and get, all the ballers in the Doomsday cabal to get together and make a video about it, because this is the stuff that interests me. So I appreciate everyone's time, and we'll get this thing wrapped up. See you, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Take care.